Danfo offers unparalleled, curated, and bespoke tours across Africa for travelers seeking genuine cultural experiences, enriched with magnificent sights, sounds, and flavors found on the continent. Each trip is reliably curated to ensure visitors are gifted with an immersive and authentic adventure. Whether you find yourself strolling along the charming white sand beaches of Sierra Leone, feasting on the mouth-watering delicious foods in Senegal, observing or partaking in various aspects of the Isheshi traditional system Ifa native to Yoruba land, Nigeria, with Danfo, you will rediscover a fulfilling sense of kinship to the true heart of the motherland, her communities. Our core values focus on integrity, quality, safety, and sustainability. We are uniquely committed to assisting with the advancement of African infrastructure and promoting African businesses, so both travelers and the communities they visit receive beneficial exchanges. At Danfo, we understand the importance of connectivity, and we have created a model which provides bespoke experiences based on your passions or hobbies. With us, expect a long-lasting spiritual bond between you and your destinations. Live, love, Danfo, Africa. To learn more, visit danfo.africa.
Peace, family. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. Hopefully, you guys are having a great Sunday. You know what? I love Atlanta. I love Atlanta. I got up this morning, went for a run on the Beltline. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Beltline, it's like a path that connects, like it's a walkable, runnable. I run it. I don't know if the correct term is path. I guess you could say path, because it's not a road. So I guess it's a walkable trail. We'll say trail that connects the different, like the neighborhoods, communities of Atlanta. And it used to be railroads, but they converted it to like a trail or path. Because when I think trail, I think like off-roading, I think hiking, I think, it's not smooth, but this is a walkable, runnable path. And, I ran it today, a lot of it. I live in the West End, and they just opened up a new portion of it this weekend that's been under construction. So I was just running. And I ran from, if you guys are familiar with Atlanta, I ran from we'll say Ralph David Abernathy, right when it turns into Cascade, all the way to Glenwood. I was just running. I'm like, you know what? I want to see where this goes, where this path ends. So, yeah, man, I just went on a nice run. Yeah, I just want to express how much I love Atlanta. I'm a native California, born and raised, Sacramento, California. Left Cali to go to University of Georgia, play football, ran track. After I graduated from college, relocated to Atlanta, stayed here in Atlanta for a couple of years. And I went back to Cali. And after about 4 years, I was ready to get back to Atlanta. Someone was asking me if I were to move again, where would I move to? If I move again here in America, I would move to the DMV area. Outside of that, I'm not leaving Atlanta. Maybe Houston. Maybe I'll do Houston, but I like Atlanta. I like Atlanta. I will say this, though. Houston has the finest women I have ever laid eyes on. Some of the most beautiful women I have ever met and laid eyes on in person came from Houston, Texas. So, yeah. But outside of that, I would, Atlanta's home, headquarters here in the United States of America. I'm at the point now where I'm even considering, since the Raiders left Cali, I'm like, I might as well just be a Falcons fan. I might as well just be a Falcons fan since the Raiders left. Since the Raiders left Cali, but I'll probably give the Raiders one more year, one more shot because they've been terrible lately. But they've drafted Mendoza from Indiana. They had a good off season as far as free agency. So yeah, I don't know. But if not the Raiders, it'll definitely be the Falcons. But I'm going to remain a Kings fan, even though they're not serious. In baseball, I was an Oakland A's fan, but they left too. They're going to Vegas. So I don't know. I'm kind of at a point where I'm just trying to decide which pro teams are going to be my teams. But I'm definitely, University of Georgia College. That's my alma mater. That's where I graduated from school. So hit that like button. Make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. Got a couple of announcements. We are rolling to Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. That is going to be August 2nd through the 11th. We are also going to Zanzibar in Kenya in September, then rolling to Ghana and Ivory Coast in November, as well as Sierra Leone and then Benin for the Voodoo Festival in January. Guys, we are already halfway through the year. I don't think you guys understand. We are already halfway through the year. Like we're coming into July. The year has gone by too fast. Spellcaster, be quiet. That's not right. The Raiders left. The Raiders left because Oakland wasn't serious. Oakland has, in the last 4 or 5 years, Oakland has lost every single professional sports team. They lost the Warriors, they lost the A's, they lost the Raiders. How do you drop the ball like that? Again, Oakland lost the Raiders, they lost the A's, and they lost the Warriors. How does that happen? How do you mess up that bad? No, I have not. I haven't covered the Carmelo case, Carmelo Anthony case. I have not really. I have not. We talked about it some here on the panel, but I haven't really done a deep dive on it. And so this is how usually, like, this is the unwritten rule at a track meet. Okay, I ran track in high school and college. So you get to a track meet, the teams, we set up our own, like we claim our own areas. And how we claim our own areas, we set up a tent. Sometimes they're in the bleachers, sometimes out in the field. And that's your tent. So when you go to the track meet, like your headquarters at that track meet, where all your coaches are for the most part, if they're not out stretching or warming athletes up, where your ice cooler is, where your trainer is going to be at that tent. All right, when it's time to get ready to warm up, if you're running relays, I mean, just you're at that tent. After the race, you go to that tent. That's where you relax, stay cool, stay out the heat, hydrate. Your coaches are there. That's where you go. So in the past, I have went to other teams' tents, but I've asked permission. I might have known another a competitor might have been cool with them for the other team. Someone that runs for the other team might have knew them, went to their team, chopped it up. But as you know, you ask. There's a common, like I said, there's an unwritten rule, but there's a certain courtesy that you have when you enter somebody's territory or tent. And I still don't really understand what happened. So he goes to another team's tent, and guys, this is how it usually works. Hey, you're in our tent. You know what? I'm sorry. Either it's raining outside, or hey, it's okay if I chill until we get our tent up. I mean, a lot of this could have just been a lot of what, in fact, not a lot. What happened could have easily been avoided. As I say, cooler heads prevail. I'm not about to fight someone over sitting, especially, I'm not about to fight someone, especially if I'm sitting under their tent. And I've sat under I've sat under rival tents before, and usually it's there just to chop it up, or hey, trying to get out the rain. Is it cool? You ask permission. There's a certain decorum you have. You be polite, and it's cool. No one says no. So how this escalated, I'm still confused. To a fight and someone dying, like I'm lost, because I've ran track from the 9th grade all the way through college. I ran track. And how another student athlete, why they will get into a fight or kill and kill another student athlete because you want to sit under a tent. That I don't get it. Again, I've been there. If you guys never been to track meet, you go to a track meet, your team sets up their tent. That's your rallying point. That's your headquarters at that location. When you're at the track meet, that's where you go. That's pretty much your, like I said, rallying point. That's your meeting place. That's where you assemble. So usually how it works, you go to track meet, you go to your tent, you warm up, you go to check in before your race, you run, you cool down, you go back to the tent. Me, when I was done running, then I would go, I would kick it at the track meet. But your rallying point, your meeting place is the tent. And if you're sitting under another team's tent, it's a simple conversation. You just show some decorum. Hey, just kind of, I wanted to get out the heat or the rain. Is it cool if I just chill here for a minute? And I promise you, rarely would the other team say no. Promise you. That's why how this escalated to somebody getting killed is just at a track meet. It doesn't make any sense. And if they didn't want you to be under their tent, you just leave the tent. But I don't know all the circumstances. Because there's so many stories in regards to how this escalated that I don't know. But I know how the tent, how that, when it comes to tents and setting up your tent, and you're having your team tent at these track meets, I know how that works. So hit the like button. I found this video. This came across my my feed on X. Let's jump into it.
There was no black without African Americans.
Bible.
We're Africans. Why would we think of black?
Bible.
Why would we think of each other as black? I'm Tonga. What are you? What are you, Taki? Exactly. You're not black. You understand? So we know who we are. Blackness was an American construct. And at the top of black culture, right, the king is Jay-Z. And his queen is Beyoncé. When Jay-Z when Jay-Z
So before Jay-Z, we were white.
before Jay-Z,
Yes.
the only people that we had fighting for black culture were Prince and Michael Jackson, and both of them were unalived, fighting for black ownership of culture, fighting for black people to be taken seriously. There was no black without African Americans.
Aibo.
We're Africans. Why would we think of black?
Aibo.
Why would we think of each other as black? I'm Tonga. What are you? What are you, Taki? Exactly. You're not black. You understand? So we know who we are.
So is black an American construct? As for Professor Davis once told me, and Professor Davis, he's going to come back on the show soon. The reason why Pan-Africanism comes from the West and this idea of blackness, now again, that could be argued, comes from the West, is because black people, we were the minority under white supremacy, under a white racist system. So as a collective, we became black. Not, we came as Yoruba, Igbo, Timne, Minde, Wolof, Fulani. But when we got here on those plantations, that's where blackness, this idea, this concept or construct of blackness, that's when it was created. That's the theory. And Pan-Africanism, because we were the minority in a white supremacist, white racist system. So is that true? Now, blackness is an American construct. All right, go ahead, Casher.
Peace, Dynas. Thanks for having me up, bro.
Peace.
I don't believe that blackness is an American concept. However, it was championed and popularized in America because of the media. However, the first concept of blackness actually came out of Africa in ancient Kemet and Nubia when they all band together and they defeated the Romans, I believe. That was the first time because that's different people from all over Africa coming together, as archers, as a military to expel white Europeans. So that's literally, you could look at that as the first concept of Pan-Africanism right now that we know of in recorded history. But the idea and the monikers, it came from America. Like the symbolic meaning of it, red, black, and green. That concept came from America with Marcus Garvey. So I don't believe it's an American concept. I don't understand what these brothers talking about. I feel like, are they from South Africa?
Yeah, I think they're South African.
Hello?
I think they're South African. They're South African,
Oh
I
man, I
believe.
can't hear nobody.
Yeah, you're on your Obama phone. Your Obama phone.
I'm gonna
Cash,
drop off and come back in. I can't hear anybody.
okay. Yeah, Cash, you gotta stop calling on these Obama phones. Elvis, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dennis.
Yeah. Cash should stay with the Obama phone, but go ahead.
All right, thank you. Look, I think it could go either way, but I actually agree with the guy, right? Because I've thought about it. You have Asians. When you ask an Asian person, "What race are you?" They'll say, "I'm Asian." So their race is identified with their continent, right? If you ask a European person, "What race are you?" You know, so most Europeans classify themselves as Europeans, not even just white. Their race is usually attached to their continent. So I think even African Americans classifying themselves as African. I know a lot of people don't want to do that nowadays, but I think us classifying our race or our ethnicity, not even our ethnicity, but our race, particularly with our continent, is appropriate because even in America, when people are referring to quote unquote white people, they say the Europeans. So you can talk about Europeans, even if they're in Africa, even if they're in Asia. When you say European, that tells you where they come from. They come from Europe, i.e., they're white. When you say African as a racial construct, you're saying that they come from Africa, which is the homeland of the darker skinned people. So I don't disagree with it. I think the black, in terms of a color, because some people will tell Africans they're not black, which confuses everything. Because if I'm an African, and when you say somebody is black, that means they come from Africa, and you tell an African they're not black, they can't call themselves black. By that very logic, it doesn't make sense. You would never tell an Asian, another Asian would never tell an Asian American would never tell a person coming from, Asia, they can't call themselves Asian American because their family wasn't here for 400 years or so, or 200 years, however long the Asians have been here. So I think if people kind of want to change the confusion, black people, especially those of African descent, should call themselves African. Our race should be classified as Africans and nothing else, because black, can be confusing. But I want to hear what Casher got to say. Maybe I'm off base, but
Hey,
that's
hey,
what I'm
Casher,
saying.
Casher, you know what, Casher? I need you to go to T-Mobile and upgrade your phone, man. It's too much, man. You still calling on these Obama phones. Go to T-Mobile and upgrade the Obama phone.
You know what? I think it's the Biden Wi-Fi that's really doing me a disservice,
Oh, it's
man. I
Biden's
really
fault.
think it's
Okay, it's
yeah,
Biden's
it's
fault.
the Biden Wi-Fi, folks. Elvis, I don't really disagree with you, bro. Like I said, I don't know exactly where I cut out. I'm not sure if y'all could hear my entire statement, but the concept of blackness comes from Africa. It does not come from America. It was just it was championed and it was popularized over here in America because of the conditions. Like I mean, the conditions were a little similar over there, where you got white invaders coming into Egypt and Kemet. So like they got to band together against the white invaders, but over here it's like you're in the belly of the beast. So like it became more prolific over in the Americas. The thing is with the Asian comparison, Asians are often seen as yellow people. You know what I'm saying? But they never say I'm a yellow person. Like they just say I'm Asian. I'm okay with just being African, and I'm okay with being black too. Like it's like interchangeable for me. So it really don't matter. Black and African it's the same thing to me. So I'll never say an African isn't black. I'll never say a Melanesian isn't black. I'll never say an Aborigine in Australia isn't black. Those are all black people. Those are all my people. That's all I gotta say.
All right, go ahead, Kidola.
Oh yeah, thank you, Dennis. The word black actually in Africa we don't really call ourselves. Let me see, put it West Africa, calling ourselves black. We call ourselves where you're coming from, which your tribe and all these things. We start saying black actually coming from United States, and 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 we thought it was cool at first, or Black Americans and all these things, because Africa was actually being used against them heavily. If you have to understand why the Black Americans are running for what called Africa, it's because they use Africa as type of like a low type of insult to them. Oh, Africans are hungry. You have to be lucky you're not in Africa. Not just only Black Americans that use it against. They use it against all the people they took from Africa, they took to Caribbean, especially those ones that the Dutch are heavily involved with. People like them are Surinamese and Italians. They were used against, oh, you have to, oh, Tiger, you're not African, or you don't live in Africa because you'd have be hungry by now. So when those people start seeing us as Africans in TV, the white people were showing the worst side of Africa to them. So this is like what Black Americans always say. Oh, we saw a big belly fly and everything. So they were running for Africans, and that's why they don't want to be Africans, and that's why they hate Africans, a lot. When they see you Africa, oh, you're African, you're hungry, which is misconception anyway. So black to us, and when we start seeing the way the Europeans, or let's say the white Americans, were dealing with the Black Americans just because they are blacks, then we start running away from blacks too as an African. Oh, no, 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 no. Because, especially during Obama time, that's what we could see heavily, the shooting, unexplained, analyzing some of these guys because they stopped them. These guys, what we see was bad. But let's just be honest. Sub-Saharan, I'm not talking about Kemet now. I don't know all those Nobias. Those are not my people. I don't know them at all. I'm talking about West Africans. We don't actually use ourselves blacks. Blacks don't. Oh, where you from? They'll tell you Ghana, Ashanti, and everything. We all know our skin color is darker anyway. And why should we be calling ourselves black? So black actually came from United States. It's a United States made in United States. According to that guy, Jay-Z is the king, Beyonce is the queen at this present time. Thank you, Dana.
Go ahead, V.
Hi guys, good evening or good morning, whatever. I don't know what your timeline is. Anyway, um, well, I mean, as many have said previously, West Africans, we're all black anyway, so we usually identify ourselves by either our ethnicity or our tribe or the country you originate from. And if you look at Africa, there's so many words that was used. If you go back in ancient times, say Egypt time, the word Egypt literally means black or black face, they say. The ancient Egyptians used to call themselves Kemet. They now translate it as a black land. I don't understand. In Africa, in the African concept of understanding, we never refer to ourselves as the soil. So they say the Egyptians literally means the black soil. I think they probably were referring to themselves as black. That's what they call themselves, Kemet. I mean, with the invasions, and other people came onto the continent who were not part of us. There's so many references they use for the word black. Sudan means black in Arabic. Mauritania, the black area, or the black area, yeah, you know, in Romans time. So the word black, in Africa, it doesn't mean anything to us. Not necessarily that we don't know we are black. So sometimes when you say to some people used to say that, oh, well, if I didn't travel out of Africa, I didn't know I was black. And they thought, no, the person is being a bit silly. But that's what it is, because until I came out of Africa, I didn't know that black is an issue, because we all black down there. But with the African American or Black Americans, I can understand why they use the word black. Because if you look in their history, when they were taken, most of them lost their tribe. They lost their identity. It was literally sort of forcibly taken out of them. You know, and they were also mixed from so many different places that ended up in the continent of America, not just in America, United States alone, but down south and a little bit up in Canada and so forth. So I can understand why they use the word black to identify themselves. I don't have any issue with it, because of the conditions and the place they were living. They were really, as somebody just said, that they were in the belly of the beast and struggling to survive. So they have to find some sort of, and they've lost everything. They've lost languages, name, culture, everything. It's like they have to rebuild themselves with what they have. So if they want to identify themselves as black or not even African, I think people should accept it. Because I don't see any, after several hundred years, there is a diversion, there's a diversion between Africa and themselves. So if they want to identify themselves as black, I think it's perfectly acceptable to me. But in Africa, we didn't have this concept of you're black, you're this, because where we were all black. Well, different shades of black anyway, different shades of skin tone, And
when y'all say in Africa, y'all got to specify where y'all from, because I just gave you an example on how people did band together as black people in Africa. In ancient Kemet, you also said the same thing, so it's like you contradicting yourself.
I got a quick question for V, if she would permit me to ask the question. Would you consider the Afrikaners, would you consider them African because they've been disconnected from Europe for so long?
I don't consider them as African, because they are not, because they still have the ancestry back to Europe. Yes, I don't consider them African because they do everything to distinguish themselves away from Africans anyway. So I do not consider them as Africans.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Why, when the black settlers from the Americas who settled and established Liberia, why were they called white?
They weren't
Yeah, you
called white.
see, let me say, you see, sometimes there's a word called obroni. I mean, every African tribe have a funny word, obroni. We use that, and sometimes now it's referred to as the actual meaning as you foreign or you're acting foreign. But there was a period in time where we use it to refer to people of a different race to us. And the Obroni, which usually cause a lot of controversy with the African Americans in Ghana, when people call them, so why are you referring to me as white? It does mean white, but it's very funny. Let me explain a bit more. Obroni literally means disingenuous people. That is the literal meaning. And that was used to refer to the Arabs when they were up in the Sahel, that we were battling with them and all that. Later, so they were called Obroni Koko, means they are fairer skinned than us. They are disingenuous, fair skinned people. That's the meaning of the word Obroni. And then when the Europeans came down the Guinea coast, we started referring to them in our culture, in my language anyway, referring to them as Obroni Fita, means disingenuous white people, because they came with wars and violence to us. You see, so we used to see them as these people. We've done nothing to them, but they're always coming to attack us, and we're fighting with them. So that is why the word. And now, as time went on, now it's used to refer to, even if you're acting foreign, if you're Ghanaian and you lived abroad and you come there and you're acting a bit foreign, they will refer to also this one is Obroni, means you're acting foreign. So with time, words do change. So even if at the time they may have referred to them as white, maybe they were acting different from them. But that didn't mean that, I wouldn't say it necessarily means that you are literally white.
If you give me a chance, let me answer him real quick because I'm from Liberia and Kofi knows
Mm.
this. So in my culture in Liberia, as you know, I'm from the Crew speaking people in Liberia. We call the American Liberians in our native, languages. We call them Kwima. What it means, Kwi, it means someone who is strange or they don't do their ways are different than ours. They
Mhm.
don't do the things that we do. They don't go hunting. They don't do the traditional things. They're not as rugged, so to speak, as some people like to call it civilized, but it really means somebody who is not a part of our traditional ways, someone who does things less aggressively, who does things. It's almost like being a diva, That's it's a derogatory term, really. So when someone is qui, some people think that it means that they're civilized or they're more refined, but it just means that they don't like to get themselves dirty, they don't like to get themselves in the mud, so to speak. So that's what we call them. We call them qui men, or men who are kind of almost like a sissy person who doesn't want to go hunting, doesn't want to farm, doesn't want to do the things that the quote unquote native people were doing. We
So
never
are
called them
so
white.
Elvis, are you saying the American Liberians they didn't go hunting or farm?
I mean, from our perspective, that's how we saw it, right? So in Liberia, for example, we have our farming season, right? You got some people that are what you call from upriver. Those are the farmers, right? Some of them have the little plantation, the old school plantation. But the quote unquote Cree people who live in Monrovia, who were the civilized people, quote unquote, they got their food from the hinterlands or the interior, as they call it. So the people that will farm from Lofa or from Nimba, they'll bring food down to the coastal areas. And those people, got food like that. Or if you're from Maryland, the Gribbles, who are the farmers, they'll bring the food and people maybe buy it, or they'll have a plot of land that they're farming for the quote unquote, American Liberia, the Cree people over there. So the point here is that we never called them white, Kofi. Obviously, you know that. I think you know a little bit about Liberian history. We never called them white. They called them American Liberian because it was a denotion or delineation that they come from America, but more so their culture that they brought was Americanized. They dressed differently from us. Their food was different. Their way of doing things were different. So we call them American Liberian to delineate that these people have a different culture than we do. Obviously, most of them was dark skinned and black like the other natives, but culturally, and they were different than us.
Culturally, I would say they didn't hunt. They didn't hunt their fellow men. They didn't enslave their fellow men. And
I mean, if you want to come here and fight over, we're just talking about stuff. If you want to come here and start a
Yeah,
fight
but at the
over
time,
something, then
that's the
fine.
history that you're
slavery has
leaving
been
out.
over.
They didn't hunt slaves. They didn't
No, at that
enslave their
time, that
fellow
that
men.
won't be
That was the
referring
difference.
to.
That was the
That
only
won't be.
difference.
That won't be
That
referring to
wasn't a
people
difference. There
hunting
was a lot of
slaves
culture difference.
You know,
because
they didn't throw
at the-
people into slavery, and if they
yeah,
had to,
but I
if
mean,
they had to defend themselves, they would.
I mean, this is not something that should even be that way, Kofi. If you want to make it that way, right? If you want to be
no, I mean,
butthurt about it,
listen,
fine.
If people
No,
are
if you
calling you
want me to
white,
start being disrespectful and get into nonsense, we can do
how
that.
is
But
that
that's not what the
disrespectful?
conversation was about.
How is that disrespectful? Why do you feel a certain way about?
yeah, but
Who?
listen, at that time, slavery had been over, and there was no slaving going on at the time they returned to Liberia. So why would they? What's going?
That's
That's
not
not
true.
true.
At the time they returned, there was slavery still going on.
They were
I don't know much
still
about the history
it was
about
chiefs
Liberia that well.
participating in the slave trade then.
Yeah,
Huh?
but guys, that's off topic. But V, it was still
Right.
going on. That's off topic. Let's get back on topic.
I don't know much
Well,
of the history
when
of
I'm
Liberia anyway.
when
But
I'm
I was
walking in Ghana and then I'm being called white, they might be calling me one of the people that who was doing the white people that were doing the enslavement and
no,
doing
no,
the
no. I mean, now the word Obroni, as I explained, is used as acting foreign or being foreign. That is how generally it's used now as. Initially, it started off being referring to as I said before, we used to say Obroni Koko means the Arabs. And then later, when the Europeans came down the Guinea Coast, we referred to them as Obroni Fita, means the lighter, the white skinned people or the fairer skinned people, which was the Arabs. So
so would
now
the
the
God
word
if the God Minte came to Elmina, would they call him a Bruni Coco?
now, no, they won't call you, they will call you Obroni. Means even me, sometimes they'll call me Obroni because it may be certain things I would do because I lived out the country for a while. When I'm there, they will sometimes refer to me as Obroni, which irritate me, but they're just using it as a means to sometimes maybe if I'm talking too much or complaining too much to shut me up. So it's
After a
not.
while, they'll stop. After you've been there for a while in the area, I noticed they stopped calling me a Bruni.
Yeah,
That
they
is
would. I mean, they do that to make a distinction that, oh, he's a bit foreign, his ways are foreign. He may, act in a way that maybe not the way we do, just to make people know. That's all. As I said, even my family, sometimes when I'm overdoing things, they'll call me a bro. Oh, stop behaving like a brony and stuff like that. You'll say that to me, and then that get my attention. Or maybe I'm overdoing it, so I should keep quiet. So it's used as something foreign, or you are acting foreign, or you foreign now. But initially, it wasn't like that.
That is this culture of it, this work of black of it, Africa of it. We just have to understand that the stigma that follows some of these names in both blacks and African is very heavy. You live in the United States, some of them that live in some of these European countries, maybe blacks that have colonized or still be colonized by the Europeans also as part of their kingdoms or citizens. When Africans come to United States at first, let me use an example of my dad that came as a sportman. My dad came during the time of Edwin Moses and Kevin Smith. At first, Kevin Smith didn't want to talk to my dad. That was my dad told me. When they were training on the track, he was 800 meters runner. It's because of that what called Africans. It showed him for a while. I don't know if you know the former world record holder. It's an 80s or Kevin Smith, before Carl Lewis. He didn't want to talk to my dad. But that's okay. Just because of that what called African. It was Edwin Moses, the 400 meters record holder, way back then, who was a little bit curious about my dad. Okay, let's take my dad out of this picture. Even our football players also face some of these things somewhere in England also. Whereby at the time, even the Jamaicans hardly want to say hello to them. You feel me? So it is YouTube that came to rescue us from all this nonsense. Because the Western black will see us as, oh, we kind of like I don't know, not educated, dirty, nasty people live on the hot and all these things. It was
My
you to, even when you try to explain to them, they
It,
will
that,
believe your homeland. There's no Mercedes Benz there. There's no
it,
school
so
that,
my
there.
experience
hey,
as
Dinus, let me get your attention real quick. And I've said this, and I don't know why you haven't done a show on this before. And even when I talk to African Americans or quote unquote FBA, they downplay this. But I think this is an actual issue. And Kofi has just expressed it. There are a lot of African Americans who are still angry, who are still hurt that Africans sold them into slavery. And when you try to really touch on it, they always say, "Oh, I don't really care about that. I don't really care about that." But they do. They do. So if Kofi is still hurt about it and we're having a conversation, he wants to bring that up. We hear the other
Is it by
brother,
the slavery? Hold on, Elvis. Is it by the
hold on,
slavery
let me just
thing,
flesh it up. Yeah, let me
or,
just flesh it out
or
for
is it?
Jordan, please.
Hold on. Is it by
Oh
the
boy.
slavery thing, or is it about where we're coming from as an African?
No, it's
That's
about
what you have to
slavery
understand.
because they always take the opportunity to say that the Africans sold them into slavery. And
I
that
mean,
by that
my,
name,
I'm not been in America or lived in America, but what I understand, my experience with, say, Caribbeans particularly, is there are two sets of Caribbeans that I have experienced. They're the Caribbeans that they're very knowledgeable, they're very curious about Africa, and they're really into everything African, and they will see you and they call me a sister. And I remember there was an incident where years ago I was going somewhere and there were football supporters, and football supporters can be very rowdy and chant racial abuse. And I was trying to get in the train, and they were sort of trying to block me. And this Jamaican guy came in, stood and told them to clear off and let me in, which they did. And I've had that kind of experience with the Caribbeans a lot. And for me, I have a very positive experience with Caribbeans, particularly Jamaicans. Now, there's another side of Caribbeans, and not kind of some be Jamaicans or other Caribbeans or whatever, that have a very strong feeling towards Africans, and they don't want to know about Africans. But in life, you see people, and you take them as they react to you. For me, if they approach me and try to speak to me about it, I'll try and explain as much as I can. The reason why many of them are angry, I can understand, because in Africa we're not taught their history at all. We are not even taught about slavery, and many Africans can be ignorant to the fact that to their history. They are, I'm not saying it in a bad way, because they don't know. So they can maybe behave or do certain things that can take them off. African education isn't the best. I learned about slavery out of Africa. I didn't learn it in Africa. I took to the trouble to learn about their history, and I learned a lot, and it's pretty gruesome.
Why
But
would my
Africans,
why would my fancy wife say that's why we sold you? Why would she say that?
I mean, she's being very, because as I said, she probably doesn't know about the
because she
history.
knows it gets you mad. In any relationship, a woman knows the things that makes you tick, right? So if
Yeah,
you're
but
making
she
her
shouldn't
mad
be.
and she says that to you, it's to really hurt your feelings.
It
Yeah,
does. It
if
does.
It
she
does.
knows things will hurt your feelings like that, then she shouldn't. Because there are certain things about infantis, as being a Ghanaian, I know that I wouldn't say to her, because some part of me is infanti, and I wouldn't say it to my infanti fan, because I know it would take them off. If she said that to you, tell her that her ancestors were also collaborators. They were the one keeping the books for the
Yeah.
Europeans to pack people into the ships.
And
She ain't gonna like that. So
my
you.
my
Mhm.
history is
Your
from a
auntie
lot of
was making
40%
bacon.
of my DNA is from Mali. There's a good chance that I sold, like, so my ancestors sold people into slavery and then they got sold later. I'm coming to that understanding.
There's all that went on. All that went on. It's like you don't like this tribe, you invade them and you capture them and you sell them off. And sometimes, when they put the ships come down the coast, I'm talking about Ghana now, because a lot of people were taken through Ghana and they were not really from Ghana. They were brought from all over West Africa to trek into Ghana. Now, when the ships come there and want to, there's a period that they have to leave because of weather and stuff like that. I can't really explain because I'm not very marital person. So what they will do is, if they're desperate, they will go to the next village and raid people. And it could be that these people were also raiding another tribe. It was a mess. If you deep, dig deep into the history that went on, it was an utter mess what we did. And we as Africans have to acknowledge that, even though I have no part to play, but I know some of my ancestors play some part in it. I
We
know
got
some of my
Steve.
ancestors were literally fighting the Europeans, and some of my ancestors were also involved.
We got Steve on the panel. Maybe he wants to chime in.
I'm gonna say this right. I always say that the blame goes on both sides when it comes to this whole slave trade thing. The Africans that participated, as well as the Europeans. But yes, a lot of Africans who were selling slaves are also sold into slavery. Matter of fact, I forgot what book it is. I find it in the book. It was an abolitionist, a white man that made note of this. And he said he asked the slaves that were captured, sent to the Caribbean, America, whatnot. He asked them, how often does this happen? He said it happens all the time. They were kidnap people, and people that were kidnapping and selling them as slaves, whatnot, they themselves get kidnapped. And they said this frequently happened in Africa. So I mean, nobody, this is narrative that FBA tried to use, that everybody that came to the slave trade was innocent, and everybody that was in Africa is guilty of it. But truth be told, it's like it's very complex. It's much deeper than what
You
they
know,
say. But
our people were reacting to what was going on in East Africa. The Arabs first enslaved Africans. So they tried to get away from that by moving to West Africa. Lo and behold, Islam followed Africans over to West Africa. And that's what you got. You got tribes just reacting and they're jockeying for position. So I don't want to get sold off. So I got to sell somebody.
absolutely, that's exactly what was happening. Some
That's all
people.
it was.
I mean, you that same book, it says some people participated in it to protect themselves. So I mean, that happened as well.
There,
So
there,
it
But
was,
there's some,
Steve,
there's some,
yeah,
there's some incidences where, for instance, one tribe, maybe they're pretty vulnerable and the Europeans can easily capture them. The Europeans will come and tell them, well, we want X amount of men, X amount of women, and they'll go and raid other people to come and bring it to the Europeans to stop them being attacked. They were
right.
also having their, those days, the coastal people were very vulnerable to the Europeans with their boats and their cannons, because they would just throw the cannon, they would hit one of their town, destroy the people, kill people. So some of the kings or chiefs and leaders there, they capitulated with the Europeans in
Right.
order to protect themselves. I mean, for instance, we the Akans or say Ashanti, people always blame Ashantis. It was like the Ashantis fought the Europeans, but they couldn't overpower them because it wasn't the Europeans only. They were also fighting other tribes that were in collaboration with the Europeans. They were working with the Europeans to fight them. So
They
the
was fighting
Ashantis
the Fonte.
no, we used to have tribal fights going on, but when the Europeans came in, they brought in, powerful ammunitions, more the advanced technology ammunitions, and they were supplying them to the other smaller tribes. So it made the fight go worse. We were all fighting each other. So I mean, when the Ashantis, for instance, they took the view that, well, if we can't fight the Europeans, we will protect our own, and they just sat there, and then people were trekked through their land, taken to the coast. They said, well, we don't know these people. We don't understand them. They were bringing them from the Sahel in
okay,
particular.
okay. V, please give me a chance, please. Hey, Dinus. I don't know if Dinus is here or you just kind of
I'm
left
here.
us
I'm
there.
here. I'm here. I'm here.
So I'm saying, Dinus, this is the idea. You can do it or not. It's your choice. But we have to ask the question: are African Americans still angry with Africans for the slave trade?
Yes,
I
we
mean,
are.
definitively, you know that.
Yes. Are many just are many? I would say the vast majority of African Americans are either upset or they just don't have any connection to Africa.
Right. So we have to have a discussion because I've asked people and some of them, and I felt like they were being disingenuous. I don't care about that. I don't care what no damn African did, but I think they are still hurt. So it's almost like, I hate to say it, sounds silly, but it's like we have to have a talk about it. It's like a therapy session because if you're still angry about somebody for something that happened a long time ago, sometimes you act irrationally and sometimes you don't even know why you're acting that way or you have certain feelings towards them because it's very deep within you that you're angry with them historically, or ancestrally you're angry with them. And I think that might just be the root cause of all of these things that's going on right now. That anger is still there and we haven't really dealt with it. We haven't discussed it. We haven't really openly said, well, you guys did this to my ancestor and I'm angry with you for this. And this is how you can fix it. Or this is how we can. So I don't know. Maybe you have to have a big show on it and maybe we can all
Elvis,
contribute.
Elvis, let me just tell you the truth, bro. The present day blacks in the West, they don't care about slave trade. What they care about is the world for Africa, where you're coming from. When you approach these chicks, I'm using that as a guy, as a young man who dabble into 90s, early 90s in Europe. I met a lot of these chicks, black chicks, and everywhere. When you come close to them and say, "Hi, how you doing?" They don't want nothing to do with you. And if
But
some of them
there's a
become your
reason
friend,
behind it, Cadola. That's what we're
hold
trying to
on, hold
figure.
on,
Why?
hold on, hold on.
Why
Let
is
me.
that reason? What is that
But
reason?
I will tell you why I say it's not about the slave trade. Then some of them when they become your friend, they will tell you, "Oh, you're African. You don't know much about this, right?" But you'll be looking at them, right? You'll be surprised. But based on that, and when they start telling you things, you start looking at them, huh? But based on that, most of us, or most of uh, other blacks, let me put Nigerians really, we were not really feeling them like that. We have to go towards the white. Because the whites are far more curious to know much about you and try to know you. So it's not about the slave trade, it's about where you're coming from, you know? And sometimes some of them can be very hostile, not just for nothing. If you're in a club with some of them and they dominate that area, they can be very hostile to you. Very, very, because they will see you. They know Africans. I'm talking about the Curacao. I'm talking about the Surinams. I'm talking about the Black Americans. I'm talking about the Jamaicans also. These lovey dovey the Jamaicans are showing now were never there before. Man, I was a basketball player, man. I come across them.
No, Jamaican
You
has
know?
always been attached to Africa, especially with Ghana. They've
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
long running attachment with Ghana.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, in a way, why I say like that?
I thought that was V for a second.
No,
why
no,
you
no, no.
sounding like
Because
that,
Hold on,
Condola?
hold on, hold on, hold on. Kidola, did you have some bad experience with Jamaicans?
oh yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Admit,
man.
maybe I'm being a female. I have never had a bad experience with the Jamaican. No,
So, so,
I
so
mean,
what I'm saying is, I've come across these people in different. Look, one of my best friends when I was playing basketball was a guy from New York, Jones, Patrick Jones. It was a guy that, oh man, where you from, man? In Nigeria, we were just talking, and oh man, that dude was my best friend throughout my basketball time. You know what I mean? So there are some who be curious to know much about you. Whoa! They ask you where you're coming from, what is going on there. You start telling them and everything. You show pictures, everything. YouTube, they brought this YouTube is the one that take the cloud out of Africans' brain. That's just the truth. The Europeans will not tell the truth. That's just all.
because if you look, say, for instance, in the UK, the Jamaicans came a bit earlier when after the war, many Caribbeans, I won't say just Jamaicans, or Caribbeans came in, and they were quite skilled people. They were like mechanics, nurses. They did because after the war, there was a shortage of
Yeah, the
workers
wind
to
the
do the
Windrush
mechanics.
generation.
Yeah, and they came in and they were quite established. And I have some of my aunties and my older people within my family, that many of them came to education in Europe, in UK. And they were the Jamaicans rent them their home because those days it was difficult to get a room rent from, the white people. But the Jamaicans and sometimes Irish people will rent them homes. And the Jamaicans were not even, sometimes they do have this banter going on where when they say they're cooking the African food, they will come to the kitchen and say, "What are you cooking? You smell in the Jamaican accent and stuff." But they rented them homes and they welcomed them. You as I said, there are two type of Caribbean that I have encountered. There's a Caribbean that they're very, very full with, they wanted to know about Africa, they in love with Africans and all that stuff. And you get a few that they're bit on the funny side, they don't want to know and but
I also get a hint of that too from Caribbeans that they too are angry about the slave trade, and and it's understandable, right? Because the suffering that went on the slave plantation, when you learn about it, when you read about it, like I came here as a kid, and I'm a big history person, and you read about them and you saw some of you can just
it was
imagine a
horrendous. It
slave
was
getting
really
whooped on a
horrendous.
plantation, his wife being taken away from him, his kids being sold. to
Yeah,
another plantation. It
yeah.
was horrendous.
It
So
was, it was
I'm sure they're angry with us because slavery
There's
did happen in Africa, but the
And
chattel slavery was a different beast, and it really hurt a lot
I
of people for multiple
let me say this
generations.
real quick, Elvis. I think it's more so people might be disappointed when they learn about Africans' involvement in the slave trade, not so much anger. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I think it's more so
look,
disappointment.
Elvis, Elvis.
it was also
there's more
understandable.
context to it because
Like that.
when you looking at ethnic um tribalism, they're also mad at each other for things that they've done against each other in the past. So we got to
Elvis,
add context to it.
why I said it's not about the slave trade. When Africans started coming, let's say I'll use Nigeria. When Nigeria started coming to the Brits to learn nursing and become well, whatever it is, educated in this field, the Jamaicans were making fun of the way the Africans would dress. You understand? Some of them were students. Some of them just came to London to study, and they were really making fun out of them a lot. And
I
and
must,
and
I must say that maybe Kidola is gonna get mad at me again. I mean,
no, no,
I
no,
mean, I
no,
know
no, no, no.
there was a little bit of difference in attitude towards Nigerians than to Ghanaians.
Oh,
Yeah,
V.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, because the Caribbeans they see themselves as descendants of Ghana. A lot of Jamaican, especially, they feel like that's where they came
Man,
from.
most
So,
Jamaicans they mostly Nigerian, bro.
no, most Jamaicans tie themselves back to Ghana.
I don't see the DNA test, man. Most of them.
I would say that when the Caribbeans do say that the lot of the ancestry may come from Ghana, I would accept it. I don't know the percentages, but I would accept it in the sense that most of the Ghanaian people that they actually took from Ghana, they were usually like say when we had a fight and we would sell the war prisoners. So most of the men, particularly that they took from Ghana, they were warriors, and apparently they were some of the most difficult people for those slave masters to handle. So they didn't want them. They didn't take many of them to America. They took many of them to the Caribbean.
There's
Most of
two
the
notable historical events. You got Queen Nani of the Maroons, and you got Prince Taki of Fonty
yeah,
Prince,
Prince Taki, yeah,
Tachi. It's
who was
Tachi.
sold. Thank you, Tachi, who was sold
Taki,
by
Taki.
the
The name is
Ahunta.
Taki.
Right, he was
Come
sold
on.
by the
He was
Ahunta.
Fonty though.
He was
Yeah,
Fonty,
yeah,
yes. When
yeah.
he went to Jamaica, he had his own uprising against Queen Nani's Maroons, who 20 years before that had their uprising. So that's evidence that groups, different ethnic groups were sold, and they possibly also participated before they got captured. And I would like to also say that I've acknowledged that I have ancestry of people who have sold people, right? This is a 400-year thing. This is like 40
No,
generations.
it's not 400. It's 6,000, bro. The Arabs were doing it
Yeah.
long before the Europeans,
We
and
could
they
have
still
been
We
doing
talking
it.
about
They
the
the
still doing it.
transatlantic slave trade,
we
though,
could
bro.
have been the first people to sell people and the last one sold. We have to really
Do
think
you
about
know
that.
the ethnic group you're talking about from the Caribbean, from the Sahel? Which ethnic group was that? Do you know?
There's the Fulani.
The Fulanis,
There's
man,
a
those
Minde.
guys were terrorists even back in those days, man. They were
Shout
That's
out
they
to
not
were
the
true.
they,
Fulani,
they
putting
man.
were
all this hate
raiding
on the
villages,
Fulani.
Look
taking
Hausa,
at
people in
Caliset.
droves. Putting
They weren't the
they used to
only
put
ones
chains
doing it.
around the necks of
Come on.
African and walk them through the Sahara Desert to sell them to the Arabs, man.
They
All
were
of the
also the
Shout
most
out
Fulani
to the
were
sold.
not
Fulani,
doing it.
man. Good
They were
people.
also the
listen.
most sold people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
listen.
Yeah,
No,
I
because
they
people
weren't the most
targeted
sold.
them because they were so notorious for raiding, being slave raiders. So
They
people
were
came
not the
back for them
most
when they got
sold.
stronger.
They were not the
Elvis.
most sold.
You got to
However,
put
they didn't
perspective.
participate in. Most of them didn't participate in it. It's only you
What
got
you have
small
to put
groups
in
in.
perspective is the Fulanis were very nomadic people, and they were very, very vulnerable to be captured, especially their women. They suffered a lot. Especially, I know some of the men did work with the Arabs, just like most other tribes.
But when you're
Even within the
nomadic, that gives you an advantage because it's hard to track you. It's hard.
Right.
no. There were the people that, for instance, most of the people that these guys were going on raid, they know where they will find the vulnerable people. For instance, there's stories about Ghana, for instance, where if they want to capture women, they know that somebody within there would tell them the day that the women will be by the river themselves, because usually I'm talking about history now. The men will probably go to the river early in the day and then head out to the farms. The woman will come in later with the children to go and help with the farming. So they will go to the river at the time when most of the men will be at the farm. So if they want to capture women, they just could know which river to go to and go and capture the women and the children. You see, so
They never,
they have information
Fulanis
like
were
that.
good house slaves, though. I will say that.
they never taught us about slavery in Nigeria. I only heard about slavery when I was in high school in Nigeria. It was
Most
just
of the
two
slaves
places,
actually came from Angola, the Kingdom
you
of
know.
Congo.
Man, bro, they come from everywhere. Not just there's no most. They just come from everywhere. It was a
I mean,
Well,
it was a
the
very big deal.
well, if
transatlantic
you hold
slave
on, let me.
trade.
Oh, are you talking about the
Transatlantic.
transatlantic slave trade? Yes. If you talk about America, most of the slaves came from the United
Nigeria.
States. Most of them, no, most of them came from Angola and Senegambia.
Yeah, true.
But
In the United States, I thought most of the Angolans went down south to Brazil and other places.
they went
But
there as well.
they used the Caribbean as like a breaking point. So they would like it was like an inventory belt. Like they would send them from the Caribbean to Brazil up to America. So it's like we
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
Right.
stay
yeah.
in one place.
Yeah,
Steve,
okay.
there's no Africans. That's why you cannot blame Africans. Or let's say, let me use Nigeria as an example. We never know if slave trade actually happened because it's never really been taught right from elementary time. Only when you get to high school, they just say, oh, whatever it is, 2 pages. So we're not kind of like conscious about it or really put our mind into it. We just have different type of things. But when we start seeing life, then we start getting older. They used to see the footprint. Like, okay, how Port Harcourt be formed? Port Harcourt is being formed as a slave trade state. Port Harcourt is not really a tribal state like that. They start seeing Port Harcourt, okay, people like the judge of Opobo and everything. The Igbo sold themselves a lot. Where I'm coming from, my king sold a lot of, it's not my king, possibility sold my people also. The Oba of Benin sold a lot of people also. You know what I mean?
You work
Yeah, Weka, yes. It was a very bad, they was selling people and
I seen
everything.
some of your people mentioning records, Kidola in America.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the Yorubas sold themselves also a lot. You
Yeah.
understand? So
Igbos did
the
too.
oil. Yeah, and you start saying tribe inside your tribe, you don't know how those people come. And they will tell you there's a word they use on those people, inside your tribe or inside your territory, you start saying, oh, this is not originally from here. It kind of the name they call them, or you can start going deep into it. It's almost like they're slaves also. You know what I mean? Only that we start marrying each other and things start diluting because they're very, very beautiful. The women there, they're very, very beautiful. So, why do you call this for slaves? No, these are no. Oh no, they're not from here. Who are they then? You can't really tell. So then you start saying, okay, these are people that left here, possibly that was serving the king and all these things then. So it's a mess, my brother. This thing is a very big mess. I
So the
understand why.
question for us Africans, right? Do we see ourselves as black people or as African people in terms of our racial identification? I see myself as an African
I
because you
see
know why I
myself
say
as
that?
African.
Because as a black person in let's say Asia, a dark skinned person in some other continent, their ways of doing things are almost completely different than an African. But you can even
Mhm.
go to East Africa, certain ways that we do things, the way we farm, the way we have certain, our tradition, it won't be exactly the same, but there's something African-ness about it. There's something universally African about our ways in Africa. So I think we should call ourselves African people
I see myself
as
as
our
West
racial
African.
classification rather than black.
Let
I
me
I
see
say
see
this real
myself
myself
quick.
as
as
That's the
I see
reason I
African as
myself.
called
well. I
in.
mean,
I think
You know,
black and African is synonymous. I think either or is okay,
It's
man.
synonymous in
to
America.
me,
V V
referring to myself
V
as
V
black
V
doesn't mean
Oh, we
anything
gonna
to me.
make it synonymous in Africa and everywhere in the world too. Cause
V.
Australia, black is synonymous. They know
Have you
what
have you
black is.
studied the Australian culture,
You said, can
V.
I
the
tell you?
Hold on,
Aborigine
hold on.
culture, how they do things? Is there any similarities to the
Dennis,
African
Yes,
culture?
No,
yes, they
Dennis,
identify heavily with the Pan African
Dennis,
struggle, not just in
Dennis.
Australia,
The
but
Aborigines, they
Papua
see
New Guinea
themselves
as
as
well.
Africans, They see themselves as
Uh,
Africans.
Mm,
Elvis,
I
Elvis,
don't
Yes,
know.
they
please, I
black
want to
people.
apologize. Elvis, I want to apologize of yesterday to V. Via, I'm not that type of person. I'm very sorry. Whatever come out of my mouth,
Like, it's
I
all
don't
right.
mean it. I don't know you. Okay. I'm very, very
No, it's
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
okay.
That's just all.
I should also
Yeah.
have apologized to you, but
Yeah.
it's okay. You know, let's bygones
Sorry,
be
sorry.
bygones. I didn't
Yeah.
take it.
Ghana and Nigeria, the love-hate relationship continues.
But
The men,
that's that.
the Nigerian men will come to Ghana and say, "Well, my wife is a Ghanaian."
That's the reason I originally called in on this show, because Elvis, you said that African is your race, right? The only problem with that is I see a lot of Africans who say, no, 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 not all Africans are black. We come in different colors and whatnot. You got the North Africans and everything else. So that's like the only problem you'll run into. Like Africa is just not a race.
But
No,
Well,
that's
look,
why they call us
we got that
sub-Saharan Africa.
everywhere though. We got that
That's
in
why they call us
America too.
sub-Saharan Africa, because we're
Right.
more homogenous in
Actually,
terms of our
Elvin,
culture, our appearance than the Northern Africans.
Northern
I'm
Africans are not Africans.
not
Right.
gonna take. I'm not gonna. I'll
So
take
can
an
we
issue
just
with the
drop
word
the African and just call them Arabs? They Arabs, bro.
Yeah, sub-Saharan African. You have the vast majority of the land is in where we are, from the west heading down, or east, northeast heading down. They are all Africans. So why should we allow this group of people that living in a small space? You know, even their land, most of their land is desert anyway. They live literally by the Mediterranean coast. Define us and call us sub-Saharan. We are not sub-Saharan Africans. We are Africans. If
I
they don't want
agree.
to African, many of
We
them don't
Af-
identify themselves as North
Sub-Saharan just is a democratic
it's a
denotion. It's
political
not.
term. There
It
are
just
black
means
people
people
African.
in
below the
Northern
Sahara.
Africa.
It's not.
Right.
I
It's
don't think it's
It's a
political
made up.
term.
derogatory.
There are
It's a
black
made
people
up
in Northern
concept.
Africa, Africa for the Africans.
yeah, there's black
Exactly.
people
If
in
they
Northern
don't want to
Africa
be
too. Right?
identified as an Africans, leave them there. They live just
Yeah, but
literally by
you know what's synonymous with the people, above the Sahara, right? So they are more Arab, Arabized, and
They
they
are
have a culture
Arabs.
But
that
but hold on,
They
assimilates
hold
with
are
on.
Arab culture.
Arabs.
A lot of those people in Northern Africa are indigenous though.
No,
they,
what do you mean by a lot?
they don't portray the indigenous.
Even
They
though
just
they're
What do you
indigenous
mean
ones,
no,
by
they
a
but
mix
lot?
heavily with the
That's
Arabs.
a lot
yeah,
is
they
subjective.
mix, but they are definitely, if you look at their, DNA, they are indigenous to
They
Northern
are not
Africa.
indigenous. They so what they did was rape the ruling class in that area, and they got the DNA from raping the women. They are not indigenous. Those are invaders that never
Aren't
left.
aren't most Berbers? Let me look at the genetics real quick. Those.
Hey, I think
If it's
when
a black
Africans come to
Berber, he's
America,
African. If it's a white Berber, he is
look,
an
look,
Arab.
when Africans come to America, they have to adjust to the American way of things. You might call yourself African in your continent, but you gotta have to adjust to what the reality of what's going on here. In America, you're known by your color. We have a color classification very similar to Nazi Germany. And regardless of what you think
Are
in your
are
mind,
are the
you're
Asians
uh,
known
you're
by
uh,
their color?
yellow,
Asians don't call themselves
yellow,
No,
yellow.
brown,
we
red,
Indians
don't
don't
call
white,
call
Asians
black.
themselves
yellow.
red.
Yeah,
If
they
you
don't
don't
do
like
that.
the color classification in America, you don't have to be here.
I'm
You can go
telling
back to
you,
Hold
Africa
on, hold on, hold on,
and
hold on,
call
Asians
hold
are
on,
yourself
not
hold on.
African.
classified by color. They're
Hold on, hold
classified
on,
as
hold on, hold
Look,
on,
Asians
hold
in
on, hold on.
America, you're
on
classified
form
by
of.
your ethnicity, nationality, color. They say black
Hold,
African
hold on,
American.
hold on, hold on.
We
Are
black
you allowing
African
people to come
Americans.
inside the country?
Two things can be right at the
I
same time.
mean, yeah.
Do
Not
you
even
control
that, but he's just
immigration?
wrong.
And the 1965 Civil Rights Act is solely because of black
That,
Americans. You wouldn't even be able to
no,
come to the
Asians
country.
are not
there
classified
were
by
Africans was
color,
immigrants here
so your
before
point
that.
is
listen.
mute.
Africans was totally excluded. Also, Asians,
There were
also
black
non-Europeans. They
Caribbeans
were
here though
not
before that.
allowed to mass migrate to America until we
Well,
had
that's
our
true.
Civil Rights Act
I
of
get that.
Yeah, well,
1965,
that's
1964.
irrelevant to what we're
And
talking about, bro.
listen, they created a minority status. Before it was just blacks and whites, colors and whites. Nobody else was even considered. So when you come here, you're coming under the auspices of being black, and you're benefiting because
What were
this
the
guy named
Asians?
Elvis said. This guy named Elvis said he was able to benefit off resources that was allocated to Black Americans, and because he's born here, he sees himself as a Black American. So now you can't just
What?
automatically say you're not a Black
I've
American.
never say that. I'm not
You
born here.
got
Second of all,
educational resources because of Black Americans, and
Yeah,
you
but
didn't deny those resources. You didn't say I'm not a Black American, I'm an
can
African
I
or
ask you a
whatever you from, and you didn't
I'm
refuse those
okay, man.
resources.
This
question?
guy.
Can I just
You
ask you
have
a
to
question?
you have to
yeah.
accept the reality of America. You can't just
You
all of
said
a sudden
you're in
say you
college,
a
right?
Nigerian.
You
You
said
say
you're
what?
in college, right, bro? You said you go to school for
Right now,
architecture,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Did you
Yeah, a lot of
apply for?
Africans over here getting
Hold on.
resources that's supposed to
Did
go
you
to us.
apply for a Pell Grant or even
I
FAFSA?
don't qualify. I gotta pay tuition out of pocket.
Okay. So the point
Listen,
that
I
I'm
don't get
making
anything.
is they ask
excuse
you
me.
for your race.
You know what? All this,
Do you deny when it
uh,
comes to the resources that you're not black? Is it
no,
just
no,
now because
No,
you didn't already obtain what
you
I
you
see,
don't
want?
think
You
that's
want to say,
just
oh, I
denied.
consider
you
myself an African.
hold on. You're coming here. You're missing the whole discussion, right? And that's the point. Because if I say I'm black, you would say I'm not black, wouldn't you?
Why would I say you not black? That's silly.
Okay, then. So why would you ask me if I deny that I'm black? I never said
I'm
I'm
saying,
African
I'm
American,
saying, I'm
but I'm
saying,
classified in this country as black. Same,
I'm saying
same way you're
every
classified.
listen. Every country has a way of identifying themselves. They have the sovereignty. In your country, y'all might see yourselves as I'm not saying you from Nigeria, but let's just say Nigeria. They separate themselves by their tribes, Igbo land, Yoruba land, and whatnot. All the tribes got their own territory. That's just in that country because they are sovereign. But in America, we're classified by race and white supremacy. You know, you got the majority and everybody else is minorities. You could say I'm not
We
black, but you're still
classified by
considered a
race
minority
under the white
in
man
America.
system, but if you leave it up to us, we gonna click up like
Listen,
trash, just
listen.
like they
It's not
do.
just
Bro,
a white man. It's
We gonna
that's
be
that's the
foes. We
reality.
gonna be
at
bloods. We gonna
college,
be
we have
crips.
our own African groups that we have our African Knights. We have
That
people
that's
from all.
that's a social
So
group.
we
That's not
always show
politics.
ourselves as African, but racially we're classified as black. So when I was doing college application for grants, for loans, and all of those things, I was, when they said black or African,
You
I
had the
take
option of
that
other.
box.
Why didn't you type?
Or
Why
even
didn't you
sometimes
type
it just
other?
says black.
Listen,
Others,
why didn't
what
you
do you
say
mean?
other?
So when I say other,
You
that
could
means
put
I'm not
other.
black, right?
I'm saying like it's beneficial to be
No,
black,
no, no,
but
no, 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 no.
now
You just said I was black. So if it's on that black, I shouldn't say I'm black. So I should go and say
listen.
others
What I'm
so I
saying
don't
is
get a
you
resource
choose.
because I'm not
Listen,
black.
I just listen. Listen, I just listen to what y'all was saying. You say I don't see myself as black. I see myself as African. Why didn't you say that when it came to getting the resources? Why didn't you say, oh,
But
I'm
black and
other and
African
I'm
mean
an
the same
No,
Arab?
you
thing in
didn't. You didn't
America.
hear what I said. I said in America, the guy was saying that black is an American construct, which I tend to agree with. But in America, you can identify yourself as black or Africans. There's certain
Or you could say
people
you not.
here.
You could say you not. You could say other. You could just put in your
But
tribe.
hold on, hold on.
Well,
Let
If
me
I
you
let me
do
ask
mean,
a
you
that,
see, that's the
question.
there's no
same thing
money
that you're
involved.
doing. That's
Hold
the
on,
same
hold on,
thing
hold
you're
on. But
doing.
let me ask a question. Don't black and African mean the same thing in America? Because I could have sworn North
No,
Africans couldn't
no,
See, there
Yes,
you
identify
it
as
go.
does.
There
African.
This
you
we
dude,
weren't.
go.
Listen,
bro,
we
he
weren't
is here to
considered
cause
Africans until
confusion,
Jesse
bro.
Jackson.
Black and African means
Actually,
the same thing in
it
America. This is
doesn't.
the
It
FBA
doesn't
Yes,
because
it
definition.
Elon
does
Musk is
because
an
North
African.
Africans can't classify as
Elon
black
Musk
or
is an
African
African.
American.
Hey, look,
Donnie is an
we
African.
all one big Negro over here, bro.
No, no, we're not. African
Yes,
don't
we
mean black
are.
because you got Arabs that's African. You got
No,
people that's
Elon
Asian that's
Musk is a
African.
South African national. Mamdani
He's
is a
considered.
Ugandan national. He's
Listen,
not an
there's no
African
country. Listen,
by
there's no country
culture
called
or
Africa.
by
There's
lineage.
there's no nationality called Africa. African is just a social construct, really.
Yeah,
Because if you look at it,
African is
the
there's
only
nationality, there's ethnicity, and then there's race.
there's no
Racially, we're
country.
all
wait.
There's
black.
there's no
Africa's not a
country.
nationality; it's an ethnicity and a race.
There's no country called Africa. It's just
No,
something they
there's
just
not.
call,
Therefore, it's
and
not a nationality, but it is an
listen because
ethnicity and it is
listen
a
it's because
race.
it's not a it's because Jesse Jackson made
Okay,
it
why is
made
it
a
not an ethnicity, bro? We don't need to
Jesse
know about
listen
Jesse
listen
Jackson.
listen before Jesse Jackson made it a moniker, we was considered American Negroes. That was our
Okay,
ethnicity.
African American. The term existed before Jesse Jackson made it.
People
He
at that
made it a
time,
thing.
You
people.
think
He
you
made it a
think when the
thing. We
police
were
is
never called
describing
Jesse
me,
Jackson.
you think when the police is
Listen,
describing me and you, if we're walking down the street, they will say, "Oh, one African, one black American." You think they'll say
They're
that?
gonna
They'll
say
say
a
two
black
They
black
go. They're
male.
males.
gonna.
They're
They're
gonna
gonna.
say
They're
two
gonna.
They'll
black
say
Call,
males.
they're
two
gonna.
black
They're gonna
males.
classify you based on your skin color. It was a person that was black. He had such and
Okay.
such. What's or
So
not.
your
So
They're
we're
not
race
gonna
is
say a
African
black.
American or
Nigerian.
black,
They're not gonna
black
say a
or African
Ethiopian.
American.
So when things are set aside for to benefit black people, it means those who have the skin color black, it benefits them. It doesn't say it's
What I'm saying.
excluding African
Listen.
people.
What? Let me just talk for 1 second without being interrupted. Can I do that?
Go ahead, man.
Now, okay. Now the things that's allocated to black people, we never had a problem with Africans being able to do that until recently because we started to see Africans get online and boast about how they was able to go to these schools, get all this education, and they was separating themselves from black
We
Americans.
still don't have a
Now,
problem. You the
let
only
me just
Negro
talk
that got a
without being
problem. You and
interrupted.
your FBA group.
Let me talk without being interrupted. Now we're looking at that was a mistake. We should have had a separation from us and all of these other groups because
No,
when
we
it comes to
not.
getting the resources, it's just
This
an open
Negro is
pot.
talking for himself, and
No,
his
let me
FBA
speak. Let
Let
him
me
speak.
let me
You can
just
do
finish
better.
talking.
Can
Let me
I
finish talking.
ask you a question
Now
quickly?
because
Can I just
listen,
ask you a question quickly?
y'all not let. Go ahead.
No, let me just ask you a question before you continue. Sorry. You know, all these rights that I know a lot of your ancestors really fought hard for. It doesn't just apply to Africans coming, it applies to Asians as well. Why is it you guys are always on the back? I know some of the Africans, the way they behave and by their ignorance may irritate many of you guys, which is understandable. But why are you always on the Africans? But the Asians also benefited from the hard suffering of your ancestors that fought for all this. So why are you always on the Africans? That's what I
everybody
want to know.
did. Southern Europeans,
A
Italians,
lot of things
Irish,
that black
all of
people
them
think are for
benefited.
them are for minority groups, and minority groups benefit from it. Your civil rights, minority groups benefit from it. And I'm a minority group in this country, so I benefit from certain things that was set up to benefit you because you're the original minority in the United States. That's the difference.
Hey, Dinus, can I talk now? Just got on the show. Okay.
You
I
good,
got the
bro?
floor, guy.
Yeah, you got
Okay,
it.
thanks. All right. So, to the question, should we be considered as Black Americans or Africans? I mean, I feel like we're arguing. I mean, I feel like that's a really redundant argument. You know, discussion, even though it's worthwhile having. But I'm saying is that. But my answer is it really doesn't matter because we're all the same race, right? You know what I'm saying?
It
Now,
does matter.
historically, now hold on, let me finish, bro.
It does matter.
Bro, hold on. Will you let me
Go ahead.
finish? God damn.
Go ahead. Finish.
No, okay, because actually, I'm actually about to kind of support your argument. You know what I'm saying? So, like, hold on, just listen, bro. Okay, not really support it, but I'm going to see I understand where African Americans are coming from. Now, so to say that the term African American never came into Jesse Jackson is a falsity. As a matter of fact, you could just read Marcus Garvey, or you could just read the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey book, and in that book, he got a whole speech of a senator giving of this senator in the United States Congress in like I want to say it's like 1850 or something, giving a speech, and he referred to the slaves as Africans. You know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, he said, "Let these people go. We got these people here because they're prisoners of war, whatever." So Marcus Garvey put that whole speech.
There was no slaves when Marcus Garvey was around.
Bro, will you
Slavery
let me
was
finish?
abolished when Marcus Garvey was around.
Once again, will you let me finish? Because I'm not talking about Marcus Garvey. I'm talking about the senator. The senator was a white American, and he referred to the Africans, and he referred to the ones as African Americans. Now, once again, like I said, now I completely agree that that not only because you mentioned the Civil Rights Act of 1965, but if you know that's actually a new Civil Rights Act. The first Civil Rights Act was the Civil Rights Act of 1865, and that's the most important Civil Rights Act.
I gotta go.
Hold on,
I gotta go in 10 minutes. I gotta go in 10 minutes. I was actually talking before y'all interrupted me. So let me finish what I gotta say because I gotta go.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
I still have the flow. What I was saying was they say we.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
Now,
you just took my time, but go ahead.
My time was being taken. So what I was saying was the Africans saying African American and Black should be the same because they're minorities. You are not a minority because you have a country with millions of people. We are the minority.
You don't make a definition. We are a minority by population in this country.
We have 13% of the population. But because of the Civil Rights Act, they made all non-whites minorities, and by default, y'all just
minority in this.
Y'all benefiting off of that. But you shouldn't.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
We're saying y'all shouldn't have benefited from it because
I'm not disagreeing with it.
African countries are not offering Black Americans any resources. It's not a two-way street. So why should they come here and benefit off anything that we have? Because because it was a legal technicality. Now, because you got black skin, you feel you should have everything that should have went to our people. That's crazy.
Okay, now going back to what I was saying, what I was saying, the Civil Rights of 1865 was designed for African Americans and to give them the benefits of African American citizenship. The Democratic Party passed the Civil Rights Act in 1965 actually to undermine that act. So what M says has some credence. It was designed to undermine, you know what I'm saying, the rights of African Americans to provide it to at this time European immigrants, right? Because at first, it was European immigrants that was coming over here, but this was before the Civil Rights Act. This was like in like the 20s and 30s with the Ellis Island and stuff like that. So at first, the Democratic Party used white immigrants to come over here to undermine black jobs and stuff like that, right? Then the recent sinister Democratic Party came into power, and now they try to use kind of like a new version of it to bring in more immigrants to turn black Americans into a permanent underclass. Now, this just don't include African Americans. So, African Americans actually have a legitimate argument here, arguing that, by all this is mass immigration of immigrants coming over, And what this doing is that the racist white corporations, yada, 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 are providing all these opportunities and pretty much just giving all the rights that black people and white people died for. Because remember, white people and black people died in the Civil War so that black people can have the right of African American of African citizenship. So so it's not just African immigrants who African Americans are pretty much, harking on for coming over here, undermining their rights and and taking a lot of their benefits, that African Americans like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and all these people who done died for and fought for. Right. So I understand that argument. It's very similar to the argument that the South Africans are making, right? Over there in South Africa. Even though I don't agree with what they're, with their practices or whatever, I'm talking about the gist of the argument, what they're saying. What they're saying is, even though I feel like they should have been attacking the whites before they were attacking the blacks, you know what I'm saying? But in essence, the whites are immigrants as well there, right? So that's what the African, as far as that, I understand, M's argument. But now I will say this though, right? Black people are all one race, right? You know what I'm saying? They're one race. That's just the gist of it. They've been treated the same way all across the world, right? So black people are one race. So, whether you refer to us as Negroes, whether you refer to us as Africans, American Americans, no other race on the planet is having that type of discussion. Because why? Because they're all in agreement as to what they are, who they are and what they are. It's because of us, because we're so divided and yada, 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 that this is even a discussion. As a matter of fact, everybody already know that I'm a Wilsonian, that I'm always talking about Amos Wilson. This is a complete, perfect example of how our lack of identity and cultural awareness is undermining our power. Because we're sitting here arguing about, green tomatoes and red tomatoes. You know what I'm saying? That discussion is something that, that alone, people who having that discussion implies that they're probably servants, right? Because something as simple as whether or not you are part of a race has become a question for black people. It seems that all the other races know that you black or know that you African, right? It's only the African and the black person that seem to find it hard to put themselves into one pot. And that seems to blow my mind.
100.
So I'm holding.
No, because Black American has consistently said, "You're not Black American. You're not us. You're not us."
Let me ask you a question.
It would be embarrassing for Africans to continuously we're the same when we're being told we're not you.
Hold on. Can I ask you a question?
Nuts, bro.
Can I ask you a question, Elvis? Like, how many times have you experienced that in real life? I'm being sincere when I ask this question. How many?
Probably not a lot. I can't really think about it, right? Okay. But I'm saying it'll look silly to an African to say, well, we're all black, right? Because even in the comments, right, when we say we're all black, we're not all black. You're an African. You African. You're not black. It's like, right. So why the hell would I continue to say that? To make myself look stupid?
I understand where you're coming from, right? Because how I grew up in the household, I lived in, if everybody was basically, they were black. And it wasn't until I seen the internet where people were like, "Oh no, that's an African or that's a Haitian. They not black." And I'm like, "What?" Right. I was like, "What do you mean?" You like, so, but I understand that some immigrants, they don't want to be recognized as black either. So, I gotta, so there's that.
Well, the issue right there, that issue is a consciousness issue. Right. So matter of fact, this whole issue that we're dealing with is a consciousness issue because most black Americans, African Americans have been through, through education and stuff like that, and like I said, a lot of Africans in these African countries as well, have had Eurocentric curriculums and approaches imposed on them, right. To undermine this, their consciousness. So, the issue that we're having right now is just a consciousness issue. I mean, anybody. It's because we've lived the world so long, viewing the world through a Eurocentric perspective, such that it's difficult for African Americans to view the world through an African perspective. Matter of fact, in many ways, they've started to divide themselves and to shed their Africanity. You know what I'm saying? Because they feel like it's beneficial to them over here, right? But they don't realize, as Amos Wilson teaches us, that undermines their power. Right? Europeans use their Eurocentric culture, their culture values to empower themselves. And we undermine our power when we negate our African culture and try to find any way to get away from being African. And insofar as this, I don't agree with certain elements of the of the FBA movement. Even though, like I say, I get the legal gist of the argument, right? You know what I'm saying? But we disempower ourselves when we keep trying to divide ourselves up like that, right? And then we get to complaining, you know what I'm saying? And we wonder why we're so hopeless or willless. We're hopeless and willless because we've bought into this myth of individualism and tribalism, and we, and we continue to negate our African values in place of Eurocentric values. And you know what I'm saying? To even, like I say, to even be having this discussion. I mean, imagine how strange it would be if you stumbled into some type of hotel conference room and you ran into a bunch of Asians in there debating or not whether or not they were Asian or Chinese. You know what I'm saying? Or not gonna say Chinese, I'm just say Asian. I'm gonna say the continent, because here we're talking about African. Think about how strange it would be, right? Even though Asia is divided up into different ethnicities of Asians, right? You got Koreans, you know what I'm saying? You got, and like I said, a lot of that is the result of colonial conquest and stuff like that, right? You know what I'm saying? Anybody who understands Asian history and stuff like that, right?
All right,
You got a whole island.
you gotta pass the mic, please. We got new people on the panel that hasn't spoken, please.
But hold on, bro. Let me finish.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sleepy Trump. Sleepy Trump is up next. Go ahead, Sleepy Trump.
Okay.
I thought it was me. It was me before, but
After my bad. Go ahead after this, Sleepy Trump.
Yeah. Greetings, Dinus. Everyone on the chat, and on the panel. Dinus, I did send a link at the back. If you can play it, please, for everyone to have a look at the end of the show, I'll be really grateful. Because I've been here contributing a lot, and I think it kind of brings us back to what some of the stuff that we were talking about, and some of the stuff that's going on in the AES, like with the current situation that we have. Okay, and I got drawn into the conversation again by people. I'm sorry to say this, but very loudmouth. They just keep interrupting people and just saying all kind of bullshit. It's like they've been paid to come to different platforms to spread, propaganda and certain narrative that's far from reality. This is, I'm so glad I came from a group of people who managed to write down their history. It's not just passed down orally, it was written down. So it's hard for people to wipe it out. When people say the Fulani were responsible for the trans-Sahara slavery, it just shows they have no clue of West African, history. If there was part of trans-Sahara slavery, yes, many tribes were, but just to point their finger on one single tribe, it just shows how really petite, minded they are. The Ghana Empire that was responsible for the trans-Sahara slavery, it wasn't a Fulani Empire, it was a Soninke Empire. And it was the same empire who oppressed the Fulani at the same time. In fact, the downfall of that empire was the reason why the Fulani and the other group of people destroyed that empire is because of that particular reason, because it was quite oppressive. They were selling slaves through the Trans-Sahara all the way to the Middle East. We know that. And this is, sometimes people who are not really truly West Africans who sneak in to come and be part of us should sometimes mind their business. Because you know what, we have people who move through the Sahara, through that's true. My people were kind of semi-nomadic. We moved around, from place to place over the years. From the 9th century goes down, just like many of the other tribes, like the Mandinka. You find the same thing with the Olof. You find the same thing with other tribes, but we actually happen to be more dispersed. Also, we have some other tribes who actually traveled from through the coast, from where you call Southern Nigeria today, and they come and settle where you call Liberia and Sierra Leone. In fact, we have them in our Bay. They settle in the Bay areas. Okay, and the reality is, um, what's in West Africa when it comes to transatlantic and trans-Saharan slavery? Yes, it was a thing, and it is the biggest. It was the biggest crime. But trans-Saharan slavery, I repeat, wasn't just based on um, color. The slaves were taken to Africa. White slaves were taken to Africa from different countries. Black slaves were taken out. Unlike the transatlantic slavery, that was color based. And I said this again: transatlantic slavery was a vengeance
Let's
of
go, Ivory Coast score.
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. My bad. My bad. I was in.
Okay, the transatlantic slavery was a vengeance. It was because of Almoravid. It was because of Almoravid dynasty. When they managed to remove the Almoravid from Spain and Portugal, Al Andalusia, that's when they retreated and they followed these people to the West African region. So the reality is, slavery was a norm. And I have put my hands up. Yes, of course, the Fulani, my tribe, were involved in transatlantic slavery, but they're probably not the top three, even top four, who are involved in it. Okay, many other tribes were involved in it. But in fact, if you want to name names, you should name this tribe first before you come to my tribe. And it just shows, again, people are actually here to spread false narrative. So the transatlantic slavery went on. But if you come back to history, the people who actually were happy to settle some of the returnees, of the transatlantic slavery are people of my region also. So the reality is, we have to apologize to our African American brothers. We have to apologize to the Caribbean brothers, in some formal way as Africans to say, look, this is what we did in the past. It was during tribal wars. It was during people were trying to build empire. People were trying to be more, imposing on other tribes, and this happened. And this, it was a bad thing. And also, some of our African brothers, like our leaders, need to do something about this. Like when they're going out crying about reparation to the United Nations, to America, when the Europeans themselves knew that these Africans were in fact complicit in the transatlantic slavery, it does not, help. They should offer big land. They should say, look, this area of West Africa, is, you can have it. Yeah, you can have this part of West Africa. You can come back and resettle. But do you know what the funny thing is? They did Liberia. Okay, Liberia was offered to African Americans as a place to return. Like I hope one day African Americans come back to
That's
Liberia.
not true.
At, at, listen, I don't interrupt me, please. I hope they come back to Liberia one day and take that land back, take righteously what is theirs, because that um, country called Liberia
Not
is
true, and it's never gonna
actually
happen.
belong to African Americans. And some people who actually call themselves Liberian today, if you look linguistically, genetically, they don't belong to that area. The African Americans who were brought back to Liberia they actually contributed a lot in the past at that time, to make West Africa great. And a lot of people used to go to Liberia and Sierra Leone, for that matter, you know, um, to seek knowledge and to seek wealth. Until Liberia was a quite decent country before the African Americans' power were removed forcefully
You
by
don't know my
people who
country history.
claim
You're just talking nonsense.
who by people who claim to be native to Liberia, when we all
Yeah.
know they're not
They
part of
they
Liberia.
never they never intended to come to Liberia. They intended to go to
They-
Sierra Leone, and they
Yeah,
incidentally left because it
and
was inhospitable, and they
and
came
they
to
did settle
Liberia.
in Syria,
So
and they did
it
settle in
wasn't the
They
original
did
intent
settle.
to come to the
They it
landmass
does
that is Liberia. That's what
they,
you don't
they
know.
and they
That's
did
what I'm
settle
telling
it.
you.
I know that, and they did
No, you
settle
didn't
in
know that
Syria.
because you
And
said
I tell you what,
they were
there
going to
was in.
settle in Liberia. You didn't know that.
Can you just do not interrupt me, please? They did settle in
Look,
Sierra Leone, and because
you
Sierra
didn't know
Leone,
that.
shut up, please. Sure. Because
You
Sierra
didn't know that.
Leone, well,
You didn't know
oh
that.
God, you all you do is interrupt.
You
Can you
think
just have?
Fulanese
Can you just have
are
a?
West
Can you
Africans?
can?
You guys are more Chadic than you're West African. You guys are nomadic. You're not from West Africa. You attach yourself to other West Africans. You're not West African, bro.
That's false. They from West Africa, man.
Nah, this dude is nomadic, bro. They're not West African.
They speak a West African language, you know.
They mix with Arab. They're not us, bro.
Yeah. They may be mixed.
They mix with Arab, bro. They were complacent in the Arab slave trade, bro.
We know.
These people like to try to, reputation launder. They're trying to launder. Bro, shut up. You've been talking for 5 minutes. Your time is up. Nobody care about interrupting. You've been running cover for your Arab slave trade, involvement, bro. We don't listen to you, man.
Can you just mute?
The Fulanis they are staying on West Africa. They're terrorists. They sold slaves. They connive with the Arabs. That's who your people are. So when you're talking about people not being West African, you're not part of us, bro. The Mandinga are West Africans. You just attach yourself to.
There you go. You're only trying to listen. This is what they do, right? They're trying to
not gay. You started talking shit. When you come and make your submission, don't attack anybody.
Shut up. This is
when you start talking shit, people are going to come back at you, bro.
They have the audacity.
The Fulanis are terrorists and they're Arab slave traders. The Arab slave trade was even worse than the transatlantic slave trade.
Right, okay.
And you guys collaborated with the Arabs.
I should ignore genetically half of me that my mother is Mandinga. I should just ignore that because my dad
you're a fraud. No, do you tell people you're Mandinga when they ask you for your tribe? Do you tell them you're Mandinga?
No, I'm half and half. I'm half and half.
No, you never tell anybody I'm half and half. You call your father's tribe. Don't be disingenuous. That's why we don't trust you. You're deceiving, bro. No African would tell you, even if a Yoruba his mother is Igbo, he would never tell you I'm Igbo. He would say I'm Yoruba.
Shut up.
So stop lying, man.
Elvis, hold on, I gotta interject. Elvis, I actually know a guy whose mother's Igbo, father I forgot the tribe. He claims Igbo. Like hardcore.
Can I say something?
Exactly. This guy, okay,
that's one person down here. Well, we're West African. We go by our father's tribe.
Listen,
nobody would tell you they're the mother's tribe rather than the father's tribe.
I got. Let me pass the mic to Sleepy Trump. Then I'll pass it.
Dennis, I haven't finished.
All right, Africa. 45 seconds. 45 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you. You know, in Sierra Leone, we have this thing that's strictly coded to your mother's side. You know who your mother is most time, but you don't know who your father is. Right? Okay, and that's one.
Let him speak 45 seconds, and I'm gonna pass the mic. Go ahead, Africa.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I can understand why people are triggered. Okay, this guy who's interrupting me, he belonged to ethnic group who were involved. They were the one that tied slaves on the boat. The Europeans said they give him the name crew. That means anywhere there's a crew, God doesn't exist there. So when the Europeans came to West Africa, they had a cross on their forehead to identify themselves to the Europeans to say, look, we're allies to you. We will help you tie the slaves, so do not touch us. Most of them committed suicide, okay? And so they collaborated heavily when it comes to transatlantic slavery. So the place called Liberia, these are the same people who fought African Americans who came to settle in Liberia.
Yeah, we probably fought them. We don't get dominated by any group of people. You think we're ashamed of fighting people who try to dominate us?
The crew people are not from Liberia. They came from the Niger Delta, the Ijaw people. Okay, they're Ijaw people. You should go back and where you belong.
You think it's a shame to fight people who try to oppress us? We were as a badge of honor. We'll tell the African American that we knocked their heads off because they try to dominate us. We're not ashamed of any fool.
You're not. Listen. There you go. You interrupt me because you know what? You know why you keep.
You're trying to appease African Americans. I'm not. I tell them we cool them out of power because they try to dominate us.
Not only you collaborated.
So you telling them it doesn't change anything. They know it. They know the history.
This guy needs to be a man and man of man. And so they not only engage in tying the slaves, okay, for the Europeans.
Don't throw slick shots, bro.
Also, it's a fact. It's a fact. Everyone can go and research it. I'm not just making this up. I never make.
So that was a bad thing that the fools took the African Americans out of power. Of course not.
And when this slave
was a glorious thing.
When they returned back to West Africa, to Liberia, you fought these people also out of Liberia, and you're not even belong to Liberia. You're actually from the Niger Delta. Go and clean up the mess.
What are you talking about? What do you learn that from?
Your crew.
We're related to the Ijaw, but we're not from there, idiot. What's wrong with you?
You don't belong to West Africa. You belong to the Niger Delta.
I'm
Where do
sorry.
where do the Ijaw people come from?
Anyone
Are they
can
not
be.
West Africa?
You
Where
come
they
from
come
Niger
from?
Delta. You
Are the
no
not the
no no. You come from
Delta not
Niger
in West
Delta.
Africa? What's wrong with this guy, man?
You came from Niger Delta. You came from the
Okay,
Niger Delta,
even if it's
where the
that,
oil
we're still
region.
West
Go on.
Africans. So what's
If
your
you have
point?
beef,
What's your
go and
point?
fight with the. If you have beef, go
Man,
and
shout
fight
out
with
to
the
Ivory
people
Coast,
who
man.
you're
They
sucking
finally
their
won their
dick
first
every time you
game.
go.
Kudos to the Ivory
Ivory Coast,
Coast.
what? And also, what? Laurent Gbagbo. Why do you think we kicked Laurent Gbagbo out of Ivory Coast?
Bro,
Why?
just pass the
Because
mic. You've been talking for like 10 minutes. Pass the mic,
he was
Donis.
also a cool guy
His
who
time is
wasn't
up.
born to be a leader. He was a cool guy who wasn't born to be a leader. You should understand West
His
African
time is
history
over,
and the
man. Pass
people
the mic,
and
bro.
stop making shit up. You will
Pass the
just go.
mic.
You're gonna have to belong. You're gonna have to
Pass
belong
the
to the
mic,
same
bro.
class. You know, the caste. Your tribe is on
Whatever
the
you
lower
say,
caste.
the one thing I'll
You
tell
have
you,
to
my
belong
people
to
are
that
not
caste
terrorists. They're not
and
running
move
around
on.
Africa
You.
killing other people in the
That's
name of
fine. You can
Islam.
call me whatever, but you belong to a lower caste. Just
Yeah,
agree to that, okay? You
exactly.
belong
You
to a
guys
lower
are
caste.
terrorists and you
So you
fuck
can never be a
cows.
leader. You're born
You
to be
fuck
ruled. You're not
cows.
born to be a leader.
Yeah.
Okay?
Civilized
And we
people
don't
don't
eat
fuck cows that they
during the
heard,
civil
man.
war in Liberia. You eat vultures. You eat vultures
Yeah,
during the war in Liberia. You
you
eat
fuck
people, and
cows
you
and you're
can't.
terrorists. What are you telling?
Hello, Dianis.
Oh God.
What happened?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Do you know what? I've just
Hold on, my bad. I was muted. Hold on, my bad. Colbert Hunter 12. Thank you for Chanel Hala. Did the Africans say they dominated foundational Black Americans because of politics that you think is power? You are puppets, and we will get you out of the government going forward. JC Inc. Thank you for 499 Hala. On the continent of Africa, there's more than 3,000 tribes, and Black Americans expect Africans to unite with them in the U.S. That's laughable. Uh, Hold on. Let me pass it to Sleepy Trump, then TT. Go ahead, Sleepy Trump.
Yeah, Dennis, man, how you doing? How's everybody, man? Your
Good.
president in DC, man, causing mayhem, man, with that UFC thing. But anyway, this thing like, oh, Africans don't call themselves black. Oh, this and that. Black belongs to the people that are in America and stuff like that. It's kind of funny, and then at the same time, it's a more of a projecting that the black people that in America that say such a thing, they are projecting. Why? You know, if you guys ever hear the European Union, right? When they discuss up in the parliament, right? The entire European Union, right? Like when they discuss, right? They usually call themselves Europeans, right? They constantly refer to themselves as Europeans. You will be you barely hear them to say, oh, call themselves whites, because that's not the point. The whole point is when you say Europeans, you try to identify a land where your people belong to, and and that land you guys have conquered for generations upon generations. So that's why, see, a lot of people don't understand it. When Africans always say Africa, Africa, we are talking about the land, because you must have a land that belongs to your people. Without land, your people are nothing. So just like how in America, if you just say black, you have to identify. You got to say Black American or something like that. But you just can't say black and you thinking it's the whole North America. You understand me, right? Just like how a white person, if they say white in America, you're not thinking, oh, the land belongs to them completely, even though they're the one, help build the country to what it is, right? So that's why. But if a white person goes to Europe and say white or whatever it is, they ain't got to say white, because all they got to say Europeans, because they know what European means. It's the same thing when Africans say, oh, Africa, Africa. Just like me, if I'm speaking with Africans, I won't use the word like black, because there's no point. Because I'm speaking about a continent that belongs to us. There's no point. Everybody look like each other. But in America now, you must identify the type of race, because then when you say, white, you're not, just like how when they say Native Americans, you thinking more of like North America. It belongs to them before, the white settler came and they changed it to, to what it is right now. Just like I give the example of a Europeans, when they speak toward themselves, they don't consider, you barely hear them use the word white. So why of a sudden, just because Africans barely don't use the word black, and then some group of individuals, just thinking, oh, the word belong to them because of they are projecting of themselves. Because color is always black is always a race thing. Just like how in the 17th centuries, when or the 15th centuries, when the Catholic, doing jihad around the world, when the French people had the code what, the black. I forgot what it was. It was more of like you know what I'm saying, like when you translate it, it meant black. So which means that they were referring to the black people that are in Africa when they captured them and bring them as slave. This was the 17th century. So during the 17th century, there was no FBA claiming black belonged to us. See these people, and then at the same time, fast forward to the 18th century, look at the Haitian Revolution. Dessalines and all that. Who was he referring to himself at? He was referring to himself as a color, but then as an African as well. So I don't know, like Americans have this thing of them twisting history to where it belongs to them. Just like if you live in a country where, you know, a man could be a woman. You understand me, right? So then you start twisting reality to what it favor you. You live in a race country. So if you live in a race country, so your race is going to be very important because as a child, you're going to be more conscious about your race. Just because you being conscious about your race doesn't mean that word belongs to you. So that's what I don't understand about certain people, man, or certain people that think, oh, the word black belongs to us because we're the one that that made it very popular and stuff like that. If I take a lion from Africa, right, a male and a female, and I bring them to America, and then all of a sudden they start reproducing, and up to like 100 years later, it's the same goddamn lion that I took from Africa. It's a lion, but once you give it a different name, but that genetic is still a lion that you took from Africa. You're not going to say, oh, lions belong to America. Lions are indigenous to America. You can't call nothing else lions because that's us. That's how I see all these things. It comes back to projecting at the same time. And also, right, this civil rights thing, right, it's been played out too much. It's been played out too much. Respect to the people that fought for the civil right, because at the end of the day, when you treat human beings like that, they do got to fight for their civil rights. But this idea as, oh, we fought for civil rights for you guys to come here, that's ludicrous. That makes no goddamn sense. Because at the same time, in the 50s, right, America and the West was bombing North Korea. During that time, before the country got split into South and North Korea, because they wanted to conquer these people. And not too far later on after that, they wanted to conquer Vietnamese. And they conquered Philippines and all these things, right? So all of a sudden, you fighting for the world's civil rights. No, you didn't fight for the world's civil rights. You didn't fight for African liberation. You fought for your civil right where you at to benefit your people. You understand me, right? So please, I don't want people to twist history to benefit their talking point nowadays, man. Because a lot of time, people that live in America, right? We got ways of twisting things that benefits us, man. Because I can't stand it. I can't stand it. And once again, I'm not going to disrespect civil rights leaders. I'm never going to do that. But during that time, the country that you represent was bombing other countries for them to control it how they want to. That's why you have a lot of countries that split into two. Who was doing it? It was the same people. How is the same people bombing other countries for them to control the country? And then you telling me in the 60s, you will fight for civil rights around the world. You will fight for civil rights for black people around the world. Because you came in because of us, because of our civil rights. It's like you trying to put it as if, Africa is poor. There's nothing in Africa. Everything is desert. There's nothing. You can't even grow no food. There's no light. There's no sun. So when you come here, you in heaven because of us. That's the problem with some of these people, man. And some of them are so phony. When you had the case in South Carolina, right? When they found that dude not guilty, they came out and say, "Oh, we're gonna boycott Asians and all this things," right? And then when you had the other case in Texas a week or two later, when they found the black guy guilty, you didn't hear the same people. "Oh, we're gonna boycott white people." I mean, if you're gonna boycott the Asians for a similar case, why not boycott the white people too? I mean, I didn't see the same people on social media. "Oh, we're gonna boycott the Asians. Oh, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do that." If America cannot boycott Asians,
Hey, 30,
what
30,
makes
30,
you?
30, 30 seconds, and I got to pat. I got to read
Yeah,
these
but
in the chat.
anyway, keep the same energy for the same people, man. If you want to be American, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you're gonna need help somewhere because the white man is not gonna hand you the police. The white man it's not going to hand you the military. You got to take it from them. The white man is not going to hand you the financial system. You got to fight for that. Unless you want to be attached to them and be, like a puppet to them, because that's what I think some of these people talking points. But please, go back and do real history where black is. You can't take a lion and bring it to America and then you think you own that now. That's all.
All right, let me read these
Oh
super
yeah,
chats. Let me read the.
Dennis.
I'm reading super chat. I'm reading the money. Hold on. Colbert Hunter, thank you for $2 holla. Explain yourself about this power in government. Colbert Hunter 12, thank you for $5 holla. Listen to this confused African with his low IQ opinion about FBA. Colbert Hunter 12, thank you for $10 holla. Listen to this crap. Don't worry, those civil rights are being taken away, which is why African are getting kicked out here and banned from coming back. Colbert Hunter, thank you for the $2 holla. Listen to this tether crying and babbling. Colbert Hunter 12, thank you for $5 holla. I got him hot in Africa complaining about FBA in America, meanwhile in his country of Africa. Go ahead, TT. Go ahead, TT. TT. All right, go ahead, V. I know you wanted to ask something, V. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that in Africa, traditionally, many tribes before we converted to either Islam or Christianity, many tribes were matrimonial. You're supposed to go where your mother is, really. That's where we were. Not necessarily that your father's tribe is not important, but going back the ancient wisdom of our ancestors, they know that the woman is the one that brings forth not the child. I mean, in our culture, we say the woman is the one that builds this, build the society in a way. So they give the women that kind of accolade that that a child belongs to the mother. It doesn't mean that the father is not important, until we converted to Islam and we picked up the traditions that come, which the people that came with Islam, they were very, what is it, patriarchal or whatever. And Christianity was also a bit
Yeah.
like that. But traditionally, the African child belongs to the mother. If you go back to our ancient way of doing things, so anybody, if you're an African and your mother is from this tribe and your father is from that tribe, you can claim your mother's tribe
V
easily.
V. One of the reasons why, one of the reasons why you can't technically claim both, right? When I said technically claim both, right? You can, but technically claim. I'm trying to refer to like power wise. You understand me, right? Like for me, for instance, I have I have an aunt, right, that works for the U.S. government. Very powerful lady, right? But then in my village, she doesn't have a say. When I mean a say or authority over the men. You understand me, right? She comes from the same family. Right? So because of the power usually are built and controlled by the men. So then if I go to my mother's side, their power structure has been controlled by the men's side. So they're not gonna allow me to come there and then overcome them. You understand me, right?
I understand, but that's
because
we have.
If I do that now, no, I'm saying some of the other reason why. Even though it's your mother, you can still claim both sides. But from a power structure, and when it comes to like family rights and all these things, because you are African, you know that your village, that's a lot of things where your village you have a massive say in it, right? So you understand me, right? So the same thing within those villages, it's the men are the most, people with the most power structure around it. So these people are not gonna allow me just to walk in at my mother's side and then try to control them. They're gonna look at me funny. But then on my father's side, that's how I see the other thing. It comes back to power structure at the end of the day too. Let's be honest. We are human beings. We fight for power.
I'm saying
and
that
just like how
we as
just give me 10
Africans
seconds. Just give me 10 seconds. Just give me 10 seconds. Just like how in the villages you vote for chiefs, right? And then some chiefs are like higher positions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna. That's the other reason as well. You understand what chiefs are, and because not all villages are the same. Some villages are very poor. Other villages
But
are
what you're
very
saying
wealthy.
is very dependable. It's very dependable. It depends.
Yeah,
It
V,
depends
I'm
on.
gonna have to disagree with you. I think we as
No.
African
Let me
people.
explain. Let me
No,
explain
you
before you
guys have had your
disagree.
chance. Give me 30 seconds to chime in, please.
I didn't finish the speaking.
Yeah, I think as African people, I can't remember in recent time where African men, especially West African men, maybe excluding the Ashanti or the Akan, because we know
No,
the
no,
reason.
no, no.
Hold on, let
A
me
lot of
finish.
tribes.
Let me finish. You know, we even in this country, even in science, the father passes his DNA down to his sons, and they carry his lineage. They carry his line. So when we're talking about being a patrilineal society, it's very common in West Africa. There might be a few groups that don't, do
If you
patrilineage,
go back,
but
if you go
most
back
West
and look,
African men go by their father's tribe, and that's a
no.
fact.
Well, as I said, it's a learned culture that we've picked on. If you go
Okay.
by most tribes that still hold on to their traditional indigenous African tribe, and you find them, there are not many. Maybe in Ghana is bigger because their Akans are big with that. There are other tribes, a few
And
other tribes in
they
the
did that because they were forced to do it because of war, right?
we were not forced to do it. No. A kind structure is the women choose the leaders, which are the men, and it's the women that choose them. And it has to come through a certain bloodline of a certain women. If the woman is a royal bloodline, it could be about a group of women, one or two or five or whatever, and they would then sit down and decide which the men among them, it could be their children, it could be other women's children, but they have to come from a royal bloodline, and they will decide which is the man is stable and capable to lead them. And once they choose and they install the king, the women back them up because they've chosen the leader. In a kind society, women have equal right. That's why sometimes people think I'm too boisterous, because the women have equal right to speak in a traditional way as the men. They are not shut down. They have a very, I mean, it may be very feminine role, but it is still a very strong role. The men do not choose their leaders in their kind society. It's the women that choose. Now, also, because of this strong tradition, it permeates into the Ghanaian society. In Ghana, for instance, if your mother is a Ghanaian, you're automatically accepted as Ghanaian. Even though the law says both father and mother, which the law says now, but traditionally, if somebody's mother is a Ghanaian, automatically Ghanaians accept them that you are full Ghanaian. If your mother is from outside and your father is a Ghanaian, you will be accepted under the law. But traditionally, you will not get any traditional role or anything like that in the society, in our kind society. So the women have a very strong role. It's not something that we were forced to, it's something that we have carried with us for thousands of years. And it goes
'Cause
back
I
even
heard
to
that history about the war and the Mosi and some other tribes. The
no,
women
no,
had to
no,
mate
no.
with them
It
because
was
the men were
nothing to
getting
do with
killed.
the
Is
war
that
and the
is that not
Moses.
true?
No, no. Our kinds never had a war with Moses. Our
Lewis
kinds
has
has
said
always
that
been allied
before,
with
and
Moses.
he's a Ashanti man, and I've
Who
heard it in
said that?
multiple places.
Who?
Lewis, King Louis, or whatever
He
his name
said
is.
that dead.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what
heard
Luke
that
is
as
talking
well.
about.
Yeah, we've heard it. So that when the
No,
war was
no,
going
no. It's
on,
nothing.
a
We
lot of
didn't
men
have
was
any
being
law. It
killed,
has
and other men had to come and sire children.
nah,
And
nah, nah,
using the
nah, nah.
women lineage, that's how they can identify that that
Our
child was
kinds
somebody. So
Let me add this, right. Look at Just take a look at the animal kingdom and stuff like that, right? Some like the ahina, right? The power structure is given within the females. The men are technically nothing within within the clan. And but then when you look at lions or like other animals, the male are usually the ones that are dominate and also in control, right? And stuff like that. So yeah, so V, in some type of way, I think you might be right when it comes to the Ashantis. That's just probably how it was designed by by God or something like that. But to me, most African tribes, for them to switch into something like that, that's very strange because the language, the history of it is very unique, because African tribes, if you want to know the deep history of it, it usually go back to language and stuff like that. But I'm not saying you're wrong. There are some other tribes in Africa where the power
That there's
structure is come
practice
through
that.
the female. It
Yeah,
comes through the
and even
female.
if
Just
and
like how
even
the
if you look at history of, even there have been some very powerful queens. So
no, we
this side
understand.
there,
No, no, no,
yeah,
no. We understand. We
yeah, the
understand.
patrilineal thing, it
Yeah,
came
but
from
we
our side.
understand. We understand. Just because the Ashantis goes through that don't mean all African tribes used to. That's how it was before. Like switch to like the so-called religion thing. I'm saying that's why I compared to the animal kingdom. The hyena, the clan is the female is basically the king. But the other animal structure, the male. So like majority of these animal structure, 90, if I'm not mistaken, probably solid 90%, it goes to the blood of the male. So you
No,
understand, right? So
the
so
lions, the female lion, like the lionesses, have to accept the man before he will lead over. If they don't want the man, they'll fight it to death. The same goes with the elephant. If you're going through their animal kingdom, the same goes to the elephant. The elephant, the male at certain age, the male bull elephant at certain age are kicked out of the structure, and it will be all females. And if they
yes,
want to
but
make, so I mean, I don't. I mean, I know my tradition did not come because they fought the men, and the men did die, and they did bring in, because there was a lot of Ashantis were allied with a lot of other tribes, and a lot of the men came in. But that we were doing this way even before that. We were doing this way before that. It's always been structured like that. That the females are because they say that the female are the ones that bring forth life. Is the woman that's going to risk her life. And when it comes to being pregnant, it's a risky thing for the woman. People think that, it's easy. Due to modern technology, it's been easy. But still, a lot of women do suffer and sometimes can die. They cells all their babies. So the woman body going through the pregnancy is something that is a life-changing, and it could result to her losing her life. So because of that, they give the woman that higher priority when it comes to the society, that they have to choose the leaders. And in my culture, it's been like that ever since my grandparents and others have been told and told and told these stories. It's always been the women that would choose the leader. They would decide who's going to lead them. And it'll be a man, but they will then, once they decide, they will back the man. They can reprimand their king or whoever, but they have to do it on the quiet. They'll call him in and say, well, listen, this is what you're doing. You got to be careful. And if they disapprove, which one of my grandmothers have done it before, if they disapprove of the leader, they can also destool you. They can also remove him, because this guy was, apparently, I wasn't alive then, he was doing something that the family didn't like. They warned him several times, and they called him to a family meeting. He came in, he was the king. He came in, a chief. He came in all dressed in his regalia, and a group of the women conspired that before he sit down, they're going to remove the chair under him, which they did. They pulled the chair under him. He sat on the ground, and that was the end of him. They told him, that's it, you've been destroyed. You're no longer our leader. So the women are very powerful in our society. They give them that simply because of the role, because they say that without a woman, there's no society. You put a group of men in one place, 100 years time, you dig up all the bones, but you put about 20 women and maybe one or two men, you'll come back and find a society because of the women. Okay, so they give us that because of this. It's nothing to do with we fighting and the men dying. And yeah, if the men did die, it's not enough men. They did bring in some men to, because they needed to boost
So it was true. So it is true.
Hmm?
So it is true
What is true? What do we
about the
say?
men coming and
Yeah,
siren.
because our kinds did align with other groups of
Okay.
other tribes, and then some of the men did come in, and if the man was good and strong and decent, they would give him their daughter to marry. Yeah, on the understanding, children belongs to them. The children doesn't belong to the man, so the men have to take understanding that you cannot take the children away. The children will stay within the society. So they did. The other group of men did come in, Moses and other stuff, and there's a lot of intermarriage like that went on. Yeah. But it wasn't to do with because the men died and they said the women should. No. It was not like that. That something was practiced even way before all these things happened anyway. Yeah. Mm. So I'm finished.
Let me ask you a question, V. Are you a feminist?
I'm not a feminist in the sense that you look at it from the Western point of view. I'm not like that. I am in a
yeah,
traditional African in Ghanaian point of view, that because as a woman, we're given a lot of responsibility in our culture. So if you say it that way, I'm not a feminist in the Western point of view, that you have to attack men and men are this. No. I mean, we
yeah, but
brought up
V,
to
Okay, I
work
yeah,
with
understand.
but V,
men. Hmm?
yeah, but V, right? This idea, Africans don't empower the females. It's completely false. It's completely false.
Well,
It's
I don't
completely
know.
false,
Well,
man.
but I
It's
mean,
completely
I
false.
don't believe.
No,
I
no, no,
never
no.
said that.
No, no, not you though, not you though. It's just like sometimes certain people, right? When they get like when they get up here on social media, right, saying, "Oh, African men, look how they deal with the females. That their females have no say, can't do this, can't do that at all, and stuff like that, right? So they just like how you mentioned, right? They're taking this so-called garbage Western idea of female in power, just to destroy families. And then it will be the same person from America, right, telling you, oh, the white man in America destroyed, the black family because of what they give all the power to the females. So they've been like this since the 80s and stuff like that. So if it's been like that since
But
the 80s,
it depends.
that means that it was designed to destroy you as a family structure. So that's not female empowerment. That's just a system to destroy your people.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm saying.
that's what
That's
people
I said yesterday that for any society to be destroyed, it's easier to go through the women. Okay, so maybe in American way, it was structured in a way to destroy the Black American, so that maybe I mean, there's a lot of laws in Europe, for instance, that people who say favored women. It doesn't necessarily favor women because sometimes they bring these laws to protect women, but some of it has gone overboard, that some women are also using it as a means to if the law is designed and is used as a means to attack men,
Cynical
I don't
ways,
believe
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't think V is a feminist. I think V is a strong woman.
No, she's not. No, 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 no,
She's
no,
a strong woman,
no, 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 no,
and
no.
yeah,
Those
yeah, I think she is a strong.
those crazy
No, wait.
those
Let me just,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah,
one
my
second,
bad,
man.
my bad,
I
my
think,
bad, my bad, my bad.
yeah, I think she's a strong woman, and this the sort of V is a nightmare for weak men.
No, I'm not. Oh God, I've dropped something. Sorry. I am not necessarily somebody that sort of. I
I
believe
think
in
you're a strong
working
woman.
with men,
Mm,
working
mm,
with men,
mm,
to get some consensus. But I don't
yeah,
believe that men should write shots over women and not give women
mm,
their due in society. I think women do contribute a lot. As I said, childbearing is not an easy job. Even
no,
though thanks to modern technology, a lot of women survive it. In the past, a lot of women do die.
yeah,
Because if you look at the biological sense of a woman giving birth, the fetus developing in a woman's body, if the woman's immune system discover it, it can eject it, because it will see it as a parasite. And basically, if you look at it in a certain way, it feels like a parasite because the child, say man and woman get together, pregnancy, uh, the egg get fertilized. Immediately the eggs get fertilized, the woman would sort of hormones will uh, bring out these hormones that will cover the fetus or the egg to protect it.
right,
That is what the woman do initially. The rest of it is done by the baby through the father's DNA. The father has the father's DNA that would instruct the fetus to implant the placenta onto the woman.
yeah,
Because
yeah. I
V,
mean,
and all this time this is
V,
going,
to be
if
honest,
the female body discovered it,
yeah.
it can inject the baby. You will see
Yeah,
it as a
to be honest,
parasite.
I always, even though, listen, okay, the cut this is interesting because I always, listen, I am proud of both of my heritage, right? My mother is Madingo, my dad is Fula. I identify myself as a Fula. Everybody that knows me, on this panel, anywhere, they always know me as someone that identify himself as a Fula. And also, I give historical context of everything in West Africa. And at the same time, some people, like to set like it's a shame he's gone because what he was trying to do, he was trying to set your ethnicity against the Mosi. The same thing he's trying to do to set my ethnicity against the Mandinka, but he don't really because my mother is Mandinka, my dad is Fula. He struggled to do that. Okay, and this is the problem we have in West Africa with some people and the ethnic bigotry. They cannot stay away from it, and they're very dangerous, and they like to infiltrate bigger tribes because for some reason they haven't achieved anything and they are very bitter. And that's reality. When people are very bitter, they will go to the extent to destroy. And this is a problem we have in Africa. It's always been like that. We always have the enemy within, and they will always point finger at someone else. Oh look, he's a bad person. Don't look at me. I'm not. I'm innocent. Okay. But even if he caught his hand in the jar, he'd be like, no, 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 it's not me. It's there.
Let me ask you a
We
question.
have this problem.
Who are you
Sorry,
referring to? Who are you referring to?
I'm referring to Elvis.
God, I don't think Elvis is like that.
He definitely 100% is. And I've been around with him for a long time to know he is. And it's a shame it's gone. And I hope he can come back. So
I
moving
mean,
on. So basically,
with regards to slave
yes.
enslavement of that went on, that we Africans, some of our ancestors participated.
Mm,
I mean, most of the tribe in West Africa are guilty one way or the other, especially the strong
mm.
major ones.
The
The
stronger
little
tribe were
tribes,
guilty, yeah.
the little
But
tribes, a lot of
mm,
them were vulnerable and they were sort of suffered a lot at the hands of some of the
but,
stronger tribes.
but there are also other
So
tribes who invited, not also, there are other tribes who invited the slave masters, these pirates.
yeah, the
Trust me. And we
coastal
got this note.
tribes,
Yeah, they did. They invited them in
the
against the
coastal
bigger
tribe
tribes,
accepted them.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they offered to trade with them. They had the choice to join their brothers from the inner land to fight, but they didn't. They offered to
It's
trade with them
true. I mean,
to
there's
do their
truth in
bidding.
that.
So
They,
yeah,
they, but they sometimes, if you look at it, they will say that. Well, if you look at history, probably they were thinking that it's a means of them protecting themselves because they, I mean, for instance, the Infantis and the Ashantis, they were all a kind group, but the Infantis and Ashantis were loggerhead. The Infantis saw the Europeans as a means to protect themselves against the Ashantis, because they didn't want the Ashanti domination. You see,
mm.
so it's history that we need to learn, and I believe that learning history will stop us repeating the past mistake, because I think Africa, we're still repeating the mistakes that went on 4,000 6,000 years ago, because
Mm.
now the leaders we have, they're
Mm.
just capitulating with all these foreign people against their
Let
own
me
people.
let me
But I
say
mean,
this,
to be
right?
honest, as
Let
I
me
always said,
hold on.
sorry, man. Yeah,
Africa.
go
Let
on.
me say this, right?
Mm.
You know, from Sierra Leone. You from Sierra
Mm.
Leone, just like me, right? We have
Yeah.
the Timine people, right? You know,
Mm.
the Timine females, right, are very aggressive. They don't take no crap. They're very aggressive. They could cuss you
Mm.
out and fight you. You understand me, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
so so then in Africa now, in America, if you had, females like that behave such a way without no control, we call
Mm.
them ratchet. You understand me, right? We call them ratchet. We call them hood boogers, or we call them hillbillies and stuff like that. All type of names. So
Mm.
there's a big difference in empowering females and feminism the way the West try to spread it around the world. A lot of a lot of teenage girls are very aggressive, man. They will cuss you out and say all type of stuff to you. But
And
but
they
the
can be
way
really good women as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
But
good
the
women.
way
Yeah.
yeah, but the way the Americans behave in that view, right? It is destructive because
Yeah.
they don't have no conscience of the law, because they know
Mm.
if they do anything to you, the law could
Mm.
just come and arrest you, take your house, lock you up, take your kids away. So it's basically the females are using this to like destroy the man on purpose. And and
Yeah.
and
Is
I
that what
mean,
you're saying? Is
and
it
at the same
something that
time,
you say is widespread, or just maybe a few women that doing that? It won't be
no,
widespread,
no,
but
no, no, V, no, V, no, V. You live in England, right? If I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah.
I live in America. I'm just giving you my experience that live in America for over 30 years. And then the way I see things. And then especially when I look at videos as well, when I talk to friends of mine as well, the things that they tell me. And then sometimes the way you run around with females as well. I'm just saying the way, like in Sierra Leone, these type of females that we call the Timney now, if they were in America, we call them, ratchet, hood boogers, all these type of names,
mm.
ghetto, because their behavior is just completely destructive. Because of the way, if they behave so nasty and so aggressive, then when the police come,
But why
they're
do
just
you
gonna
think
arrest the
they're
man,
behaving like
take
that?
his house. No, certain tribes, right? They have some type of aggressiveness in them that's natural. Just like our certain tribes are very laid back, are very chill, but they don't mean like, what I'm saying, like they can't fight you back. It's just that let's be honest, certain tribes have a DNA that they carry with them. You
I'll
understand
say
me, right?
it's a cultural nurturing. I wouldn't say it's DNA per se. It's a cultural nurturing, that how some women are nurtured. to sort of interact with their men. I mean, in our culture, our current culture, women are very forceful, but we know that at the end of the day, we have to cooperate with the men to get things done.
Yeah,
So
of
there has to be
course.
some cooperation there.
No, no. The thing is this. What I'm trying to say is how the rules it's been overused. It's how certain people abuse the law. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I said if you take that same female, you put them in America now, they will completely, you know, abuse the law because the law favored them to behave so crazy and they don't care about the outcome because they said, "Oh, I'm a female, empower female." You understand me, right? Just like how you said some female overuse that power structure when they come to West because the way the West look at feminism is totally different the way we look at it as Africans. You understand me,
But
right?
did
So
you
that's what
know
I'm trying to
why?
say.
Did you know why all these laws came about in the West, for instance? For instance, a woman, some men, women goes into a marriage. When a woman goes into a marriage, it doesn't matter how. Some women will be left with the inheritance. Say maybe lots of money and lot property, lands, and all that through their family. But once they marry, the husband takes over everything because the husband is the head. That was in olden days. That's how their law was structured, their traditions were. And they did find out that some men were using this law to against women in a sense that they will marry the woman. They don't really want the woman, but once they marry the woman, they take over her property, everything. He's the lord of the house. And then disinherit these women, sometimes drive the woman to death, crazy, or even divorce them and left them destitute. So that is why they changed their laws to allow women to have rights within the marriage and properties. In our African, for instance, our tradition has always been if a woman goes into a marriage with a property or with inheritance, it is hers. And she can put it in the family if she wants. If she doesn't put it in the family, the husband doesn't have the right to force her. But the
So
Europeans
who's
was
more
the other way
powerful then?
around. Huh?
Who's more powerful then? It's the female in Africa. It's the female
Yes.
in
I
Africa.
know that. I
This
know. I
this
know
is
our
this is
women
what
are
this
very
is what this
powerful.
is what this is what some of these Westerners don't understand. You understand me, right? Just like how I was saying is about 40 minutes ago. They don't understand what is in female power, power in females. They just take it for what the government says and some of these corporations, within the last 30 to 40 years now, just twisting it and everything, especially like the last 20 years, it had got out of control. But just like how like me, there's a family of mine, she's not within my family, right? She was married within outside from my family. Like for instance, if my uncle dies, she's gonna get everything that my uncle has automatically. I
Mhm.
don't, I don't, I don't like it, but because me and her don't see the same. But at the end of the day, she's her husband. I mean her wife, so she
Mhm.
has the authority of that. But I don't have nothing to do with that. But I don't like the outcome. But that's just something that we as Africans will be doing for generations. That's just
Mhm.
not something that all of a sudden let's just put it into law. No, that's just something we
Mhm.
have. That's
That's
that's been going on for
traditionally
years.
something that we
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah. Just like I can't go to his house and then tell the lady, his wife, this is what you do. No, because the wife and the husband are two and two. I have to respect her. I have to respect her. She just as valuable as the husband as well.
Mm.
Uh,
I mean, there's a lot of
yeah, I
complexities
mean,
within tradition.
yeah, I mean, African tradition are too much. That's why sometimes I can't deal with it. It's like we just need something plain and simple. That's that's more global, for the entire West Africa.
Come
But
on, African man. That's more simple compared to
seriously, no,
if you look at
I
family court.
honestly, I just think women's know how to run society better. I just believe that men are just too egoistic, and they're not pragmatic enough. But we know, for example, in Sierra Leone and Liberia, when the war finished, it was the women that picked up the pieces in the country and actually rebuild the country back up again. It
Yeah,
was,
but it was
so
the women's protest that even brought the war to an end, wasn't it? The women
yeah,
really
yeah,
protested
yeah,
very,
yeah,
very
yeah.
strongly.
Well done, V. You know your stuff. You know your stuff. They're the one
I
that brought
mean,
the war
I
to an
think
end.
the African way of doing things, if we really look at that's what I say that sometimes we abandon some of the things that our ancestors did, and it wasn't so bad. They have it
Mm,
structured. the women have a role, the man has a role in the
Yep.
society. And you know, if they come together, I mean, we always brought up with the belief that if you marry, you have to cooperate with your husband. You can't go right
Let me
shotgun and then find your
let me
husband
send my
out.
shout out to sorry V, let me send my shout out to my sister Mary Shai. You know, my saloon sister. Mary Shai
Mm,
is half Mende, half Temne. She's what
mm,
you call real Sierra Leonean.
mm.
Greetings, yeah. Because she's been, you know, yeah, for real. But yeah, basically, you're right. I'm surprised you know that because the women's are the people who brought the water and then in Sierra Leone. They
Oh,
actually went out.
I read about it and I heard about it and I had discussion with
Ah,
some of my Sierra Leone and they told us that it was the women protest that they even threatened in many occasions to go and strip themselves naked and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, I heard all that, you know, I read
yeah,
about it, you know, and
and
things
that
like that. And it did sort of make a lot of progress to help bring the war to an end, despite the
and then
Nigerian army and the rest coming in to try and fight the people that were causing the
peacekeeping
trouble.
force. Yeah,
Mm.
to be honest, that
Dinus,
war.
are you
Yeah,
there? Is Dinus there? Because I was thinking, for us to have a
Yeah, I'm back.
some type
Go
of
ahead.
some type of fuller information show. We could put some money together and give it to you, for like an hour and a half. Because there's a lot of misinformation. Because to
Yeah,
me,
yeah, 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 yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Why not?
yeah, because to me, man, a lot of people come here, right? You know, I've been coming to your show, I think almost 2 years now, right? A lot of people come in and say a lot of things as well, right? But then we should have a record keeping. Certain things that certain people say, right? If certain people have a record of saying the right things later on, and then you could prove that, there has to be a different category, right? When somebody just says some ridiculous things, constantly.
Mm,
People
mm,
come here every month, make some ridiculous lies, constantly, and then when you check after 3 or 4 months later, or whatever, like 6 months later, they completely wrong. So we don't hold them accountable at all. At all, but they come here every day or two, like whatever it is, give their own opinion, and then their opinion is totally wrong when you look at it, for later on, or they come in and try to insult people, say, "Oh, the Fulanese, sleep with their cows, f their cows and all these things, drink, their piss and all that." You understand me, right? Or like, oh, the
mm.
Fulanese are now West Africans. All these ridiculous things. But then you the same one always come here telling Africans we we can't fix Africa without the white man being in front of us. That's what that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand.
Interesting.
And then at the same time, when you check the history, you don't really do nothing for where they come from at all. But they spend most of the time talking about Africa, the white man, the white man, the white man. For us to do anything, the white man has to save us. I mean, just say what you are at the end of the day. Like just like how like Alpha Damas, he doesn't hide in his intent, right? If he's wrong, he's wrong. Because I told him Donald Trump is gonna be just like Joe Biden. I sent him a message, a personal message. I said Donald Trump is gonna be just like Joe Biden. And then just look at Donald Trump health. Now he's sleeping nowadays. You understand me, right? Just like how I mentioned,
Mm.
a lot of things. Like Brandon, he comes in, he said exactly what he thinks. But some people come up here when it's the opposite, they said this. When it's this, you know what I'm saying? And then we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah. They're
no way
not
of checking
consistent.
them.
No
Yeah, and
consistency,
then
and
they
that's
have
not
never
good.
been accurate of truth at all. They have never
But
been
but the
accurate of
thing,
truth at all. So
but the
to
thing
me,
is,
there's
some
a lot
people
of
lack character.
misinformation. Yeah, so Dinus, one of these days, probably like whatever it is amount to give you. So then it could be like an hour or like an hour and a half. I might have somebody or like Africa, could do it. He could bring
Yeah,
some sauce. He could bring some real sauce, so people could understand. The Fula people, the important
of West
things that
Africa,
they do of West
in
Africa.
West Africa,
Just like how every tribe
past
has,
and current.
crazy people. Every tribe has crazy people. But
Yeah, but
overall,
you see,
in West Africa, the Fula
when it
are
comes
very
to
important.
talking about tribes, say, I mean, sometimes I get very irritated when if wrong information given about kinds or even Ashantis, and I'll get very
Mm.
um this vociferous about it. I mean, regarding the Fullers, I know a lot of Fullers from Sierra Leone and a little bit from Liberia, but a lot of the Fullers I know they're from Sierra Leone, And I
Yeah.
find them to be some of the most educated people that I've come across. But one thing that I would say, if you compare with the nomadics that they're walking around, especially in Nigeria, causing trouble, there's a world apart. There's totally, I'm even surprised that you can even
It's like
categorize
black
them
and
all in
white.
the same tribe,
Yeah. Yeah.
the same
Like
ethnic
black and
group,
white.
I should say. Huh?
It's like black and white when you compare them. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm not, I don't know much of the history of Sierra Leone or Liberia, apart from what people that I know or what I've read or people have told me. But the fullest I know, I can't even compare them with the ones that are walking around in Nigeria causing trouble. I really can't.
No.
It's like I sometimes ask myself, how are these ethnic group related? They can't be, because you have this group here. They're totally different from what some of these people are doing. The nomadics walking around with cows and doing. Do you understand? And I think with that too, I will come down to the leaders of Nigeria. The leaders, especially the northern elite, have used these young men, misguided young people in the past. You talk about some of the most richest people in Nigeria, they're from northern Nigeria. They're very rich. Dangotes and a few others that I've heard of, filthy rich. What development
Rabiu.
are they taking to this northern part of Nigeria to try and give these young men and women jobs and prosperity? What are they doing?
Exactly.
So you have to blame them. So to sort of tie it all with the whole group of people, that is not fair. For me, that's how I look at things anyway. I will say what I know,
Listen,
what I learned. I may be
yeah.
wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
I blame the
I totally.
northern Nigerians.
Yeah. And the funny
Blame
thing
them.
is, people like Fulani from West Africa, like from Senegambia region to Sierra Leone, we benefit nothing from those Fulanis in Nigeria. If anything, they
Exactly.
have they
That's what I
have
say.
tarnished our yeah
To
we they
me,
have tarnished our reputation. But
I see them
by
as two completely different groups. I don't see them as the
yeah
same as the ones that I
no
know that
no
I've dealt with, that I know as people that I know
yeah
that have been to their houses, been to their occasion, been to their naming ceremonies and stuff like that. I don't
yeah
I don't see the correlation between these two groups. Do you
yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
No, I got you. That's exactly the opinion of a lot of people. But the thing is, those in northern Nigeria, I don't know. To be honest with you, do you know what the funny thing is? I did not know there's Fulani in Nigeria until I came to the UK. This is just 100% fact. We didn't know. If you ask the average Fulani from Sierra Leone, maybe on now we have YouTube and the internet. If they're Fulani in Nigeria, they'll be like, nah, they're Hausa because they're not classed as Fulani anymore.
They don't see
This is
themselves as
100.
Fulani anymore. They see
Nah,
themselves more as,
yeah.
yeah, mixed
If
up
they were to
Hausa and
come back to
Fulani
Guinea,
anyway.
if they were to come back to Guinea now, the people in Guinea or Sierra Leone or Senegal, they'd be like, nah, we not one of us. 100%, because we got number one. Most of the time, we got different looks about us. We don't look the same, and the language that we speak is actually no longer the same because not a lot of them speak Fula. Uh, and then culturally, we're miles apart from each other. We don't have the same culture. The only thing that we might have in common that some Fula from the far west are still cattle herders, and most of these Fulas in the far west who are cattle herders, they're limited. Um, in where the cattle actually go. It's all regulated. They can't just take their cattle. There are cattle herders in Liberia, there are cattle herders in Sierra Leone, Senegal, all over West Africa. Mara River Union, all that region, there's cattle herders, but they're restricted. They know where to go, where not to go, and some of them have what they call wura. Wura is like ranching. It's like a big, massive area. In the whole like a town, but in that town, they build some system where the cattle cannot cross the fence. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like the way they done it is technically so advanced. Um, because
Yeah, Africa.
historically, in fact, no, one second. Historically, in fact, when you look at the history during the slave trade, most of the Fulani who were slaves in the U.S., they were actually did want to help the white Europeans about ranching. So it kind of make me wonder why are the fullers in northern Nigeria not ranching? Because that's the only long term solution.
You know,
Ranching is the only way, and it's I don't know. It's just baffled me.
you know,
But but also ban sorry also ban. The problem is there are the same fuller who are crying victims. Some of them are, yeah, they are victim of the cattle ranches. And then you have Fulani who been disenfranchised, who've been captured by these terrorists, and they recruit them and they say, see, your government don't care about you. They favor the farmer over you. So why didn't you join us? You can make more money doing kidnapping. And that's probably where some of the stuff that I read and the research that I done. This is where the Nigerian government need to step on the plate and actually sort that out. But then also you have the Boko Haram guys who are
The
causing most
Boko
of the
Haram,
mayhem.
they were not Fulanis, were they? They are,
They,
what are they
they,
called?
they Kanuris, they're Kanuris, they're
No,
You
Kanuris.
know,
yeah,
They
they're
are
not Fulani.
the Boko Haram are the one that is actually doing the castle rustling. They come and take
you
the
know,
Fulani cows and they recruit them into the this terrible things. So
you
until they
know,
defeat Boko Haram, I'm sorry, Ban, until they defeat Boko Haram, I think if Nigeria want peace, they need to get rid of Boko Haram first. They have to get rid of them.
you know, Africa, right? NV, right? We all come here. We have our pattern of speaking, right? The way we see the things, right? The way we see
Mm,
things, right? And all these things. So like a majority of us are very consistent with that, right? But then
mhm.
if we have an ideology or some way of speaking, right, and then we stand by that truth, right? If we are completely wrong, people need to start calling us out on the show, because I'm tired of people always come here with that same, talking points constantly,
Um,
constantly,
I
constantly, right?
mean,
Repeating the same
for,
things. I remember, I remember like a year and a half ago, right? Other people were saying, oh, like where Burkina Faso are gonna get all this money to do all these things. I said, this country have gold. Gold is real money. And then look how like just take a look at the project that they doing, the things that they doing.
mhm,
That means the money was always there. It was
mhm.
just a lack of structure, the lack of corruption and stuff like that, right? But you had people that kept on beating me down. They say, oh, there's no money there. They need the white man. That's why this and that. I mean, these are the same people up to this day with the same talking point, and then they they haven't been right at all. So sometimes some of these people that constantly come up to these shows, they need to be checked. I said, you said this a couple months ago. Now it's the opposite. You haven't been consistent with your truth.
Probably that's why I
There's no,
always
there's no,
I got into
there's no back
trouble.
evidence at all on it. I
You
mean,
see, that's
opinion is your
why.
opinion, but your opinion has to have some type of truth behind it. If you always come to a show to give up your own thoughts, your own opinion and stuff like that. Because why go back and forth? But then 6 months later, you completely wrong. 1 year later, you completely wrong. 2 months later, you completely wrong. But you still coming up here and telling people as if you're so smart. For you to be smart, your history have to show. You got to prove people. Oh, this is what I said the last time. This is what happened. Oh, this is what I said. This is what happened. I was right. I was right. Oh, this is what I said. I was wrong. This is how I showed I was wrong. But don't come up here every day and then at the same time you want to insult other people's tribe and then insult other people's religion and then tell Africans
Listen,
the white man is the white man the white man
And
is gonna save us. That's what
and
I
the
don't understand.
and the
I
funny
can't
and the
like
funny
people like that, man.
uh,
People like that. I'm gonna end it.
yeah,
Just 10 seconds, man.
yeah,
People like that are
mm,
very irritating. I hate people
yeah. I
like
mean,
honestly speaking. I don't see
I
nothing good
I
with people
think
like that. I don't
yeah,
at
I
all. There's
think
nothing good with people like
yeah,
that.
I
Go
agree.
ahead,
I
bro.
mean,
Y'all too. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, you see, Liberia, for example. Liberia is always been a problematic place because there are other ethnic group that used to come there. Because look, our area where you call Sierra Leone, Liberia, is a bay. These are bay areas, and it's really rich in fishing because we
yeah,
have
you've
what they
got
call
natural base. You've got natural
yeah,
base where ship can
natural
come in
harbors.
easily. Yeah,
Natural harbors. So there,
yeah,
there
yeah.
have been other ethnic groups from the further West Africa south, beyond you guys in Ghana, who used to
Hmm.
trace certain type of fish, in West Africa. So if that fish
Yeah,
run out,
yeah,
they come
yeah.
to like stuff like that. So you know, um, so the reality is, some people have come in and assimilated into our ethnic groups and our region over the years, but really truly they don't understand or belong or have the same mindset as we have. So we don't have the
Mm.
same interest neither. So this is a problem we have in Africa. So you might have a tribe that live there, but in the other tribe, their own interest is totally different to your tribe. And I think this is deliberate by the people who partition Africa to make sure we never come
You see,
together.
what it is when say go back to our history again, when Europeans and others came in, they did pick on the tribes that they think they are the most cooperative to work with, and many
Yeah,
of them did work with them. For instance, the
yeah.
Ashantis were very uncooperative people. They didn't want to be dominated or this, and they're very proud people. That they want to go around and dominate, fight
V,
people, and
V, you
conquer
know
them.
why? You know why,
Hmm.
V? Because the Ashantis had a kingdom that was much more respectful. The people, the tribe that you see that was just like how you mentioned, right? These tribes, they were nobody. Let's be honest with ourselves. They were technically nobody. They were
Hmm.
technically
Yeah.
nobody. That's why I keep saying, that's why sometimes when I say the white man made them, the white man gave them power. A lot of people don't understand that. I'm not taking shots
No, the the
at
the,
the
the
people.
missionaries, the
What I'm trying to say
missionaries, the
is,
missionaries.
yes, what I'm trying to say is, before the white
Mm.
man, how was your people? How was your people before the white man? Let's be honest, because that's very important. It's just like family, right? If your family comes from a wealthy background, you look at things differently. But if
But
you
this
just
this
got
is what
money,
sorry man,
if
this
you
is
just
what I
got
was
money,
saying. But this is the
you just
reason what this is what I was saying. After the downfall of the Almoravid dynasty, okay, when the Almoravid took over Spain and brought Islam to Spain. So when Alfonso the Great managed to when Christianity took over Spain again, they sent a lot of missionaries to West Africa. But these missionaries were not, for religious purposes. It's to do, their bidding for them. Okay,
It was to
and a
do
lot of
with
this,
indoctrinating. It was to do
yeah,
with to indoctrinate us, to get us to
exactly.
shake off
So they were
all
spies.
that we
They
know.
were, yeah, they were spies. They was used, to get this coastal tribe to work with them because they wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to come and conquer and take slaves. So it's always going to be like this. And as I said, we're always going to have a group of people who are, likely to work against their own brothers. And because we're not patriotic enough, that's the reality. And it's a shame Liberia fell because Liberia would have been a good example of how, because we know in Sierra Leone before the war, okay, the Jamaican Maroons who settled in Sierra Leone and, those slaves who came back, God, these guys were very smart. They built Freetown. If you look at Freetown from if you go back, how these guys built a city from those treacherous mountains. If you go to Sierra Leone, you can see what I'm talking about. Sierra Leone is highly mountainous. They
Hmm.
managed to build, system in place, and they did so much. They actually teach other Africans how to do it. They established a first
Hmm.
modern university in West Africa, and
Hmm.
Liberia could have followed that, but unfortunately, you had other people who were looking at the African Americans, the American Liberians, as a threat. Instead of looking at, they would have rather work, they would have rather call the European bossman than their own African Americans who actually came there to help them. So, so the reality is they could have work with the African American and not look at them like an enemy and build that place like what the Creole and the Afro Caribbean did in Sierra Leone because the
Hmm.
African Caribbean in Sierra Leone did so well.
Africa,
Mm.
just like how I always say, right? The Ashantis, they had a kingdom before the white man came. The Houses, the Fulas as well, the Yorubas as well, right? So these people had
Had kingdoms. Yeah,
civilization. They had
yeah,
system. They had system
that's
before the
true.
white man,
That's
and
true.
then that
That's
system
true.
was very powerful. You
Right.
understand me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a DNA within these people. You know, they're capable of doing great things. Just like how if your family they have lines of doctors, right? Somebody else family did not ever, and then they become doctor. That's not the same thing, because you started from scratch. But me now, you have families of doctors, so you go back. It's the same thing. But a lot of people don't understand these things. They think it's just no, 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 no. It is, it is a mindset and a belief system as well, and to extent a genetic system as well. Because just like I said, right, where was your ethnicity before the white man? Where were they? What were they doing? How was they
I
dominant
mean,
in
you see,
Africa?
one thing that you have to understand is the divide and conquer trust strategy they came with. They really did get to us pretty good, and they have, and it seems to be having an effect even till today, because you have certain group of people in West Africa, particularly the coastal areas, that they're fully into colonialism. They still want to, they're still maintaining the structure of colonialism up to even today,
Yeah, because the white
and
man gave them everything. Because the white man gave them everything. That's why.
yeah,
Before there were
and
nobody.
so we as a
There were
people,
nobody.
we still suffering from the remnant, of what has gone on. They haven't changed their mind. They still believe that everything good comes from elsewhere, and anything Africa is no good and it cannot be good. There's still that, even in Ghana, there is that. I speak when I'm in Ghana, and I speak to people sometimes. I get so frustrated. In the past, I would have argued with them, but now I don't have the energy, so I just say okay and leave it. If you listen to, there was, for instance, a woman was narrating. So she's a very strong. She's an educationalist, and she works in Ghana, and she's very well known. And she said that she went to a place and a group of doctors, and she was talking to them, and they were having a conversation, and she said, oh, she was asking them the tools that they use for their, professions, within their profession and so forth. And she was saying to them, oh, so some of these tools, for instance, if we manage to get the Ghanaians to manufacture these tools, would you guys use it? She said, to her surprise, a lot of these doctors that are educated us have got up and said no. And he asked them, why wouldn't you use the tools if it's developed here, instead of you guys always ordering your stuff from elsewhere? So she said, well, we cannot trust it because it's made in Ghana. And she was shocked. And I said, why are you shocked? It's the same
Yeah.
thing. We grow some of the best rice in West Africa, but yet we import so much rice. Old rice
Mad,
too.
innit?
Rice that probably got arsenic in it. But our rice, when we grow it and then go to the mills, within 2 weeks to a month, it's in the market and it tastes so fresh. But we rather import rice that been stored in certain places for 6 months or more, because they store it. When they harvest, they store it, eat what they can at that harvest before the next harvest. Then they sell the old rice, and most of it comes to Africa. So when a rice is stored, depending on how it's stored and how long is it for, it develops this arsenic thing. But our
Yeah.
rice is fresh, but most Ghanaians will not buy our rice. And our
Mm.
farmers are crying. This is the level of how we have been
What,
indoctrinated.
V, what's going on with this mercury polluting the rivers? That's really worrisome in Ghana.
What was that?
What's going on with this mercury polluting the rivers is really worrisome in Ghana.
The arsenic,
Yeah, the mercury, yeah, the thing
the
they use to wash.
mercury, sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, there's a
yeah.
lot of there's an uncontrolled kind of illegal mining going on within the country, and
Mad.
people have been fighting it as best as they can. They've been warned not to use those things. Some of them have been given machinery where they can, sift out the gold without using any chemicals at all. But
Mm.
still, many people are out in our forests, by our rivers, because in Ghana, because we are very traditionalists, we still believe in a lot of traditionalism. So a lot of our rivers, especially when you have a heavy rain and you go through the river, once the rain has settled, and when you go through the river, you could be picking up gold and diamonds in many, many places in Ghana. The rivers, you
Mm.
could just see the gold dust or gold pebbles in there.
Yeah, no,
So they've
Ghana
been,
got gold. That's true. I
yeah,
agree.
it's a bit like that. So because traditionally we believe that riverside deity, mountains, streams, forests. So in the past we used to respect all this, and our ancestors never did any, mining in rivers or certain forests. They wouldn't go, and there's a designated areas that they could go and do this mining. But now it's become free for all. They are mining in rivers, and because they want to get the gold out quick, they're using mercury, and
Yeah,
we are in trouble. And some of the
because I
mining areas, there's a lot of children being born with deformities. There's a lot of mothers miscarrying, Children are born, some of them are born with no hands.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk
that's
about
what it
it.
does.
It's so
Yeah,
heartbreaking. And these
yeah.
people are behind what is going on. They are educated people. They know what they're doing is wrong, but because they want to make quick money.
All right, guys. I'm gonna read these super chats so we gotta close out. Baba
All
Lico,
right,
thank you
Yeah.
for
thank you,
thank you for
Daniel.
Fadala Holla. Big up bang, always on point.
Bye,
FBA
guys.
saying let's get together now. Baba Lico, thank you for Fadala Holla. African and Caribbean people must not fall for nonsense. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Till next time, family. Dynasty Mirror, search for Huru. Peace.
All right, Dennis, man.
Peace
Thank
and
you.
love to everyone.